Hey everybody, I'm Josh Jackson from WPSculptor.com. In this comprehensive video tutorial, I'm going to show you how to create this exact online store that you see here using WordPress, and we'll also be using a free WordPress plugin called WooCommerce and a free WordPress theme called Storefront. And obviously for this tutorial I decided to go with a construction equipment theme for my mock online store, but you'll be able to create whatever type of store you want with whatever type of products you want. Storefront is a wonderful theme to use, and you can see that it's a really classy theme, and you'll also be able to customize your site with any color scheme and any logo that you want. I'm going to show you how to create a custom logo like you see here, and I'll be showing you how to come up with a professional color scheme, and I decided to go with a black and yellow color scheme with this white background here and also this green accent color like you see here with the green link. But you can use whatever color scheme you want, and I'll show you how to create custom navigation menus as well, like you see here, and also here at the top we've got another menu, and I'll show you how to create drop-down functionality on your navigation menus just like this. Also, of course, you will need to set up your domain name and hosting account if you haven't done that already, so I'll be walking you through that process. And I do want to point out that my actual domain name is quickwebsitecreation.com. But because I don't want to have to purchase a new domain name every time I make a new video tutorial, I'm using a subdomain, but you'll definitely be able to get your own domain name. And I'll show you how to add content to your pages using the visual editor, and you'll be able to add text and images, and also be able to make text and images a clickable link to other pages on your site or anywhere on the internet. In this case, I decided to make the word products a link to my shop page. And also you'll be able to make your text any color that you want, your heading text and your main text. I'll show you how to do that. And then I'll be showing you how to set up your home page to have certain products show up. And here we have recent products. And if we scroll down, we have featured products and on sale products. And I do want to point out that of course you'll be able to add more products here. I just happen to have only one on sale product and just two featured products. But you'll be able to show the products that you want in any particular order. And also you'll be able to customize the color of your buttons here and your button text color. We'll also be discussing widgets and widget areas, and in our footer we have 4 footer widget areas, and I've got a shopping cart widget, a product categories widget, and then I've got a products widget with my featured products, and I'll show you how to set up featured products. And then I have a search products widget, and you'll be able to add whatever widgets you want to your footer or any widget area on your site. We'll go over all of that in detail. And also you can have whatever colors you want for your footer background and for your footer text here. And also I want to point out that the storefront theme is mobile friendly by default. So just to show you, I'll make the browser window smaller here. It will resize nicely for mobile devices like you see here. And you also have this mobile friendly navigation menu. Alright, I'll resize that back, and of course I'll show you how to add products to your store, and I'll just click on the nuts and bolts product here to be taken to the product page. You'll be able to add multiple product images, and we can click here and see a gallery of product images that open up in this nice lightbox effect, and you can click here to see the different images, and then I can just click on the X to exit out of that. You'll be able to make products on sale like I did with this product if you want to, and you can also put in a short product description here, and then if we scroll down you can put in a long description here. And we'll also be organizing our products into product categories to make it easier for your customers to browse your different products. And with the nuts and bolts product I have it in 2 categories, so you'll be able to assign multiple categories, multiple product categories to each product if you want to. And we can click on the product category, and I'll just click on hardware here, and that will take us to a page with all the products in that category. And then we'll also be setting up a shop page. I'll click on that, and the shop page will display all of your products like you see here. I'm also going to show you how to create advanced variable products, and a common example of a variable product might be a t-shirt, because a t-shirt might have different size options and it might have different color options. So I'm going to show you how to do that. The example I'm going to use is the tape measure product, so I'll click on that. And you can see that we have a different price range for the tape measure because some of the different options are actually going to add on or take away prices. So I have 2 different materials, a metallic and a plastic. So if I choose the plastic, notice that my picture changes, so you'll be able to do that. And then also we have 2 different sizes for each option, and notice that the small option is $15, and that's referring to the small plastic option. I also have a large plastic option, which would be $20. Now, if I change the material back to metallic and left the size at large, notice that the price is $25. So I'll be showing you how to set up advanced variable products so that if you have different products with different options, you'll be able to add those products to your store. And I'll also show you how to use a WooCommerce shortcode to create a page that displays all of your product categories. And you can see that here when we click on the product categories menu item. And of course, you could click on each of these categories individually to see all the products within each of those categories. And I'll also show you how to add each product category to a drop-down menu to make it easier for your customers to browse your product selection like you see here. And you'll also be able to have a My Account page, and I'll just click on that. And this is an optional page that you can have, and this way your customers can register for an optional account, and they would be able to save their billing information and view their order history if they wanted to. And we'll also be creating a contact page with a contact form. And customers can fill out this contact form, and when they submit it, the form will be sent, a copy of the form will be sent to the email address that you specify. Alright, and now I want to take you through the customer purchasing process, and we'll also be going over some advanced tax and shipping options. So let's go back to the shop page, and we'll scroll down, and let's say that as the customer we wanted to add 2 ratchet sets to our cart, for example. We can click on that to open up the ratchet set, and then we could change the quantity here to 2 and click on Add to Cart. And you can see that in our cart widget here in our sidebar, that's going to add the 2 ratchet sets. And also, if your customers hover over the item total at the top here, it will also display their cart items. And then to check out, we could click on Checkout here or Checkout in the menu. And of course, if your customers did have an account, they would be able to log in here, and that would automatically fill in their billing details. But I'll just fill in the billing details real quick here. Alright, and then of course your customers could check the box to create an account, and they could also choose to ship to a different address if their shipping address is different from their billing address above by just selecting the box here. But we'll leave our shipping address to be the same as our billing address. And then we'll come over here to the right and notice that we have our cart total is $90, and then we have 3 shipping options, and these are all flat rate shipping options, and I'm going to show you how to set up flat rate shipping options. And of course you can have as many as you want, and you can make each shipping option cost whatever you want it to cost. And so your customer would select the shipping option they wanted to go with. Let's say 2-day shipping. Notice that that's going to automatically update the cart total. And then we can scroll down. I'm going to show you how to use PayPal to process your payments. It's a really quick and easy way to get your online store up and running. And of course, you can read the note here. It says your customers don't have to have a PayPal account. They can pay with just a credit card or a debit card. And then your customers would click on Proceed to PayPal for the payment processing. And that'll take your customers to your PayPal page. And then they would just click on this other option here to pay with a debit or credit card. And then they could click here and complete the rest of the payment. And after they submitted their payment, you would get an email from PayPal letting you know the customer's information and what they purchased. Alright, now let's go back to our checkout page on our website. And I want to point out, notice that in that first example, we didn't have any sales tax applied. And the reason for that is because a lot of online businesses only have to charge sales tax to customers that reside in the state where the business is located. And that's the way I set this mock construction website up. I set it up to be based out of Colorado, and only people in Colorado would have to pay a sales tax rate. And I set that rate to be 7.5%. So watch what happens when I change the customer billing information, when I change the state to Colorado. And of course they would change their zip code as well, but you can see that we now have a tax rate applied. And $6.75 is 7.5% of $90, and it's only going to apply, like I said, to people that have a Colorado address. And of course you can set this up any way you want. You can set up whatever tax rate you want, and you can set it up to apply to only select states or all states, however you want to do that. So of course I'll show you all the details with the tax options. I'm also going to show you how to set up an optional free shipping option for customers that have a minimum order quantity in their cart. And the example that I'm going to use in the tutorial, I'm going to set the minimum order quantity to be $300, but of course you can set whatever quantity you want. So if we go back to the cart page, I'm going to increase the total number of ratchet sets to 7, and when I update the cart, that's going to put our total above $300. Alright, now when we go to the checkout page and scroll down, notice that we now have this free shipping option showing up. And of course, like I said, this is completely optional, but I'll show you how to do that. And then another thing we're going to do is go over an advanced shipping option. And notice that, of course, we've set up 3 flat rate options: the ground shipping, 2-day, and overnight shipping. And if the customer were to select the ground shipping, for example, it would be $5 no matter what they had in the cart, because theoretically you could bundle all the products that they have in the cart and ship them all together as one shipment. But let's say that you have products that they may be heavier than usual, or they may be fragile, breakable, and consequently they cost more to ship. You can pass that cost along to your customer with this advanced shipping option. So I'm going to go back to my cart, and I'll remove the ratchet set from the cart. And the example I'm going to use in the tutorial, I set up my drill product to have an additional shipping cost. So if I click on my drill to open that up in the product page and add to cart just one drill, and then go back to my checkout page, I want you to notice that if we scroll down, our shipping costs are actually $4 more. Each one of these is $4 more than it once was, and this is because I set it up to where every time a customer adds a drill to the cart, it adds an additional $4 to the shipping cost. So if I go back to my cart and add 2 drills, it would add another $4 to each of these shipping options. And just to demonstrate that, I can increase the quantity to 2 and then update the cart. And now when we go to the checkout page and scroll down, you can see that our shipping costs have adjusted accordingly. So you can set this up for any product. You can set up customizable shipping rates, additional shipping rates for any product that you want. And I'm going to show you all of that. And then I'm also going to show you a really neat feature of the WooCommerce plugin, and that is how to set up cross-selling. And cross-selling is basically if you have 2 products that complement each other, you can set those up to bring the products to your customer's attention. And if we go back to the cart page, notice that we have a drill in the cart, and consequently we also have a drill bit product, and I set that up to be a cross-selling item for the drill product, because obviously customers that purchase a drill might be interested in purchasing a drill bit set. So I've set that up there, so when they view their cart page, it's going to show that they may be interested right here, and they could add it to the cart from this page right here. So all of this I'm going to show you how to do step by step without skipping any steps, so that everyone can easily follow along and create a fully functioning professional e-commerce website. Alright, the first thing we need to do is set up a hosting account and a domain name, and for that I highly recommend using a company called HostGator.com. They've got a wonderful product and service and excellent pricing, and they also have an option for you to pay by the month, which makes it easier and cheaper to get started. So let's go ahead and go to HostGator.com. And then click on web hosting here at the top, and we'll scroll down and you can see you have 3 different options, and they're all currently 20% off. I'm going to show you how to get an even better discount than that. The hatchling plan is going to be your cheapest plan because it's only for hosting 1 domain on that account. The baby plan is a great value because you can host as many different domains as you want on that one account. So if you have multiple websites or plan on having multiple websites in the future, this is going to be a great value option for you. And then the business plan has the same features as the baby plan, plus a free private security feature and a free toll-free number, and most people probably don't need that. So we're going to go with the baby plan for now. So go ahead and click on sign up now. Now the first thing you need to do is choose a domain name, and of course a domain name is what your users would type into their web browser to access your website, such as google.com or amazon.com. If you already have a domain name registered with another company, such as GoDaddy.com, you would click on this tab here, and then you would enter your current domain here and complete the rest of the hosting sign-up process. And then HostGator will send you special instructions for how to link your hosting account with your domain name. If you do need to register a new domain name, stay on this tab here, And I actually already own my domain name, which is quickwebsitecreation.com. And because I don't want to have to purchase a new domain name every time I make a new video tutorial, I'm going to use a subdomain. And for this tutorial, it's going to be constructionequipment.quickwebsitecreation.com. But in your case, you will need to register a new domain name if you don't have one. So just to show you what it would look like, you would enter the domain name that you want in this box here. And we'll just type in construction equipment. And then you have several different domain endings. You have the .com and then all of these other ones. And we're going to choose the .com. So once we select that, it's going to tell us whether or not this constructionequipment.com domain is available. And you can see here that this domain is currently not available, and it also tells us that these other endings, the .net, .org, and these others, aren't available either. So this just means that we need to try again and get a little more creative with it. So this time I'm going to type in construction equipment market, and then I'm going to select .com again. And as you can see here, this particular domain, constructionequipmentmarket.com, is available. And if you wanted to add these other domain endings, you could do that by checking the boxes here. But we're just going to leave it to constructionequipmentmarket.com. Then we're going to scroll down, and the next thing you need to do is choose your hosting plan. And we already decided to go with the baby plan, but you would choose whichever plan you wanted here. And then for the billing cycle, you would select that here, and we're going to choose to pay for 1 month at a time, and this is just going to be cheaper and easier to get started that way. But you would select whatever option you want there, and then you'll choose a username following the criteria below here, and do the same thing with the security pin, and be sure to remember that, both of those. And then you're going to scroll down and enter your billing information here, and you can either pay with a credit card or PayPal, and you would enter your payment information in here. And then scroll down, and by default sometimes these additional services are added on, and I'm going to go ahead and uncheck these. You can always add these later, but usually it's easier to get started as cheaply as possible for most people. So we're going to go ahead and uncheck these options and then scroll down. Now this coupon code SNAPPY gives you 20% off your hosting purchase. I've got a couple of different coupons that give you a better discount than that, so you can get started even easier. The first one is WP Sculptor 1 cent, and then click on validate, and this is going to give you your first month of web hosting for just 1 cent. And you can see here the domain is going to be $12.95, and that's going to cover you for a full year for your domain. And then your first month of web hosting is just 1 cent, and that's a discount from the $9.95 that it usually is. So if you did this option, your first month of hosting would be 1 cent, and then every month thereafter you would be billed $9.95 a month as long as you wanted to keep your website. Now the other coupon code that I have is WP Sculptor 25, and click on validate. This is going to give you 25% off your entire hosting order here. So if you are purchasing multiple months at once, instead of just paying for 1 month at a time, you may very well save more money this way using the WP Sculptor 25 coupon code. We're going to go and change it back to WP Sculptor 1 cent and click on validate. And I do want to point out that not only do these coupon codes give you an additional discount on your hosting purchase, they also help support me. I get a small commission for referring you to HostGator if you do use one of my coupon codes, and I really appreciate that. It's a great way to express your support for me and for these videos that I create. Alright, so let's scroll down, and you can see that you get your free 24/7 customer support. You get free instant account activation, a 45-day money-back guarantee, and your domain registration is going to cost $12.95, and that's going to cover you for an entire year, so you won't have to worry about that for a year. And your first month of hosting is going to be just 1 cent using the WP Sculptor 1 cent coupon code. And then after the first month, you will be billed $9.95 a month as long as you continue to want your hosting account. So your total is going to be $12.96, and go ahead and click that you've read and agreed to the terms and conditions, and click on Checkout Now. Alright, after you set up your hosting account, give HostGator about 15 minutes or so to get your account set up, and then you're going to check your email, and you should have an email from sales@hostgator.com. Go ahead and open that up. And you're definitely going to want to save this email. It's got several bits of important information. You have a link to your control panel, and you have the username, and then you have an automatically generated password. We're going to go ahead and click on the link to our control panel. That's going to open in a new tab. And then we'll go back and we'll type in the username. And then you want to go back and copy the password that was given to you, and make sure you don't get any additional spaces like that. and do make sure you get all of the characters. And you're going to copy that and paste that in here. And of course, I've already changed my password. Click on Login. And we can go ahead and exit out of that. And this is what your control panel looks like. The first thing we're going to do here is install WordPress. So let's scroll down. And where it says Software and Services, click on Quick Install. And you shouldn't have anything on the right here. I've got all these different WordPress installations because each subdomain that I have, I've installed WordPress on it. But with a fresh hosting account, yours should be blank here. Go ahead and click on WordPress and click on Continue. And again, you should only have your domain here, and that's definitely what you want to choose, but I'm going to use a subdomain that I've already set up, and that's going to be constructionequipment.quickwebsitecreation.com. So I'm going to find that and select that domain, that subdomain, and then leave this blank, and I'm going to go ahead and uncheck Enable Auto Upgrades, and then you need to put in an email, and you need to choose a blog title. And you can always change this later, but we're going to call it Construction Equipment. And you need an admin username, and then your first and your last name, and click on Install Now. Okay, be sure to save the username and then save the password that was automatically generated. You're going to need that information to log in to the back end of your WordPress website. And before we can access our website, your domain name has to do what's called propagate, and sometimes this can take several hours, sometimes more than that. And this has nothing to do with HostGator. It has to do with several different factors, such as your actual physical location and your internet service provider. So just be patient with the process, and we'll check back in a few hours. Alright, after a few hours, we can check to see if our WordPress installation is ready. And to do that, I'm going to open a new tab and just type in your domain name. In my case, it's constructionequipment.quickwebsitecreation.com. And once you get something that looks like this is what a standard default WordPress installation looks like. And this is actually the 2014 theme that comes standard currently with WordPress. If you're watching the video at some point in the future, your default theme will likely be different, but it should look something like this. And of course, we're going to customize the look and feel of our site completely with the storefront theme that we're going to download. Now, to log into the back end of your website, let's go back, and you can see here the admin area is your domain /wp-admin. So I'm going to go back and type that in at the end of my domain. So it's just your domain /wp-admin. And that'll take you to the login screen. And then let's go back, and you're going to get the username, and I'm going to copy this password. So you'll need both of those credentials to log in. And type in your username and paste in that password. Click on Login. Alright, and this is what the back end of your WordPress website looks like. And this is where you're going to make all your changes and customizations here in the back end. The first thing I want to point out is the admin bar here at the top. If you click on your site title at the top left, that's going to switch you back and forth between the front end of your site and the back end of your site. And I do want to point out that this will only show up on your computer when you're logged in. So we can click on the site title again to be taken back to the back end, just like that. And before we really get going here, let's take care of a few housekeeping items. The first thing I want to do is delete a plugin that might cause some interference with seeing your changes that you make to your site right away, and it also might interfere with the eCommerce plugin we're going to download later. And to do that, let's go to Plugins and click on Installed Plugins. And we're going to delete the WP Super Cache by clicking on Deactivate. And then we need to scroll down, and underneath WP Super Cache, now we need to click on Delete. And go ahead and click on Yes, delete these files and data. And you can always reinstall that plugin later if you wish to. Now the next thing we're going to do is change our password to something that we can actually remember. So to do that, you're going to go to Users and click on All Users. And hover over your username and click on Edit. Then you're going to scroll down towards the bottom where it says New Password. You're going to put in your password that you want and put in that same password again. And with WordPress, it's always important to save your changes if you want them to take effect. So we're going to scroll down and click on Update Profile. The next thing I want to do is show you how to change your site title and your site tagline. To access that setting, go to Settings on the left here and click on General. And we set up a site title when we installed WordPress onto our hosting account, but if you need to change that, you would do that here. And then for the tagline, I recommend changing this to something that reflects on your website. We're just going to change this to Welcome to our store! Exclamation mark. And then scroll down and we need to click on Save Changes. And one thing I do want to mention is that if you leave your computer for a while and you remain logged into the back end of your WordPress site and then you return to your computer and you find that the changes you're trying to make aren't actually taking effect, they're not actually updating and saving, you may need to log out of the back end of your WordPress site and log back in. And so to log out of your site, you're going to go to the top right here, hover over your username and click on Logout. And this will just take you right back to the login screen. And I do want to show you, if we just type in our domain name, you'll see that the admin bar is no longer appearing. So of course, to log back in, you would type in your domain name / wp-admin. And we'll log back in with the credentials, our username, and then the new password that we have. Click on Login. And I'm going to go ahead and exit out of these two tabs that we no longer need. Alright, the next thing we're going to do is download, install, and activate the free Storefront theme. And I do want to point out that Storefront is a great theme to use for e-commerce. It's very straightforward, and I especially like it because it's designed by Woo Themes, and that's the same company that created the eCommerce plugin we're going to be using. And that's very important because the two are definitely going to be compatible. You can be sure of that. So to download the Storefront theme, I'm going to open a new tab, and we need to go to woothemes.com and hover over Themes at the top here. And currently you could just click on Storefront there, but I'm going to click on All Themes in case you're watching this video in the future, and then click on Free. And then scroll down. Currently Storefront is showing up at the top. In the future it may be one of these themes below, so you may have to look for it. But we're going to hover over where it says View this theme and go ahead and click on that. And then we need to download Storefront. So click on Download Storefront there. And it's very important that you save this file. You do not want to open this file because your computer might actually unzip this file, and you can see that it is a zipped file. And we need it to remain that way for WordPress to accept it. So you definitely want to save this file. I've actually already got this downloaded, but save this file somewhere on your hard drive where you can find it. And another option, you could right click or control click if you're using a Mac, and you download Storefront, and you could click on Save Link As, and that would save the file as a zip file as well. So go ahead and download the Storefront theme. And I do want to point this out real quick. At some point in the future, you may need to sign up for a free account with Woo Themes in order to download the Storefront theme. And it should remain a free theme, but you may need to actually add it to your cart and then check out as if you were making a purchase, but the amount should total $0. And then once that's downloaded, we're going to go back to the back end of our WordPress site, and we're going to go to Appearance, click on Themes. So, and to upload the theme, we're going to click on Add New at the top here. And we're going to click on Browse to find the file on our hard drive. And I've saved the zipped file to a folder on my desktop. And I'm going to open that file. Click on Storefront zip file and click on Open. And then you're going to click on Install Now. And then you need to click on Activate to activate the theme. And now when I view the front end of my site, I'm going to do that by right-clicking on the site title and open link in a new tab so that I can alternate between my back end and front end easily. And when I look at the front end, you can see that we have a completely different look and feel. And this is just because we now have the Storefront theme activated instead of the default 2014 theme. Alright, the next thing we're going to do is download and install the WooCommerce eCommerce plugin. So I'm going to close out of this tab and open a new tab and go to woothemes.com again. And hover over WooCommerce and click on About WooCommerce. And then come down here to the right and click on Download WooCommerce. And again, just like with our theme that we just downloaded, you want the plugin to also remain a zipped file. So it's important that you save the file, don't open the file. So we're going to save the file somewhere on your hard drive, and I've actually already got this saved to my hard drive, so I'm going to click on Cancel. But you would save that file and then go back to the back end. And to upload the plugin to your website, you're going to go to Plugins here on the left and click on Add New. And we're going to click on Upload a Plugin because we have the file on our hard drive. Then click on Browse, and you're going to find that file, the zip file, and we have it right here, woocommerce.zip, and select it and click on Open, and then click on Install Now. And then the last thing you need to do is activate the plugin. Click on that. And then the next thing we need to do is install the essential pages for an e-commerce site, and these are pages like our shop page, our checkout page, and the shopping cart page, just to name a few. There's going to be several others as well. And WooCommerce, the WooCommerce plugin makes this incredibly easy to do. All we have to do is come up here and click on Install WooCommerce Pages. So click on that. And now we have those essential e-commerce pages installed. The next thing we're going to do is set up basic WooCommerce settings. So now that we have the WooCommerce plugin installed, we should be able to come over here to the left, and we should have this WooCommerce tab. Hover over that and click on Settings. And that should take you to the general settings page by default, and we need to first set our base location. And since I'm based out of Denver, Colorado, I'm going to click here and type in United States. And that's going to pull up a list of all the states in the US, and I'm going to select Colorado. And then for selling locations, instead of selling to all countries, to keep things a little more simple for the purposes of this tutorial, I'm going to sell only to people that are in the United States. So I'm going to select Sell to Specific Countries Only. And then below that, that's going to pull up the option to list the specific countries, and I'm going to type in United States and click on United States there. And you could add additional countries if you wish to, but we're just going to leave it at that. And then scroll down, and because we are operating out of the US, we need to change the currency to the US dollar. So I'm going to type in US, and that's going to pull up the US dollar. I'm going to select that. And then I need to scroll down and save the changes. And then the next thing we're going to do is click on the Checkout tab, again under WooCommerce Settings. Click on Checkout. And make sure that Guest Checkout is enabled, and by default it is, but you want to make sure that's enabled, and if you needed to make a change, you would need to come down and save the change at the bottom. And the reason we want Guest Checkout enabled is because we don't want our customers to have an account in order to make a purchase on our site. Then let's scroll up to the top, and again, WooCommerce Settings, and we're going to click on the Accounts tab and scroll down. And by default, enable registration on the checkout page should be checked. We want to keep it that way, and we also want to click on enable registration on the My Account page. So I'm going to check the box, and this way people can click on the My Account page and actually register for an account. And the benefit of having an account is that the customer wouldn't have to put in their billing address and shipping address each time they made a purchase. It should save that information for them as long as they log in. And also they would be able to log into their account and view their order history. So let's go ahead and save that change by clicking on Save Changes. Alright, that should take care of the basic WooCommerce settings, and we will return to these settings periodically throughout the video as we set up our payment options, our shipping options, and our tax options. But first, before we create our home page, I want to view the pages that we already have created, and to do that, let's go to Pages and click on All Pages. And you can see we already have several pages, and most of these were created by the WooCommerce plugin when we had the WooCommerce plugin automatically generate the pages that we need for our e-commerce functionality. And the only page that wasn't part of that process is the sample page. And this is a page that comes with a WordPress installation by default. And we don't need this page, so I'm going to show you how to delete a page by deleting this one. What you do is hover over the page you want to delete, and we can click on Trash. And that doesn't actually delete the page permanently. It puts it in this trash folder, and we could open this trash folder and either restore the page or delete it permanently from there, but we'll leave it in the trash folder for now. Now, to create a page with WordPress, all you have to do is go to Pages and click on Add New. And we'll dismiss this note. And the first thing you have is a place to put your title for the page. And I've got my page title here. I'm going to call this Welcome to the Mott Construction Equipment Online Store. Paste that in there. And what you have with WordPress is you have a visual editor here and you have a text editor here. Now the text editor we won't be using just a whole lot, although we will use it a little bit. This is primarily for actual HTML code. So if you have an embed code from a YouTube video, for example, or if you have some Google AdSense code, you're going to be using the text editor to put that in because that is actual HTML code. And also, when we use plugins that have shortcodes, we'll use the text editor to add those shortcodes. Now, the visual editor, which we'll be working primarily with, functions much like a word processor. And if you click on this icon here, when you hover over it, it says Toggle Toolbar, or Toolbar Toggle. Click on that, and that's going to pull up even another row of additional formatting options. And let's type in some text here. I've got some text here. The first line, I'm going to say, check out our store. Exclamation mark, and I'm going to select this, and by default it is set to be a paragraph. I'm going to make this a heading so it's a little bit bigger, and I can do that by selecting where it says paragraph, and I'm going to make this a heading 2, and you can see that makes it bigger there. Then I'm going to click here and press enter on my keypad and open up some more text, and this is going to be a paragraph text, so I'm going to copy and paste that in there, and by default it should be a paragraph, but you could select it and choose paragraph if you needed to do it that way. Then I'll click at the end, press enter on my keypad, and the next thing I'm going to do is create a bullet list, and I'm just going to type out these, press enter again. And to create a bullet list, I can select the text, and then I can either do a numbered list by clicking on that, or if I don't want that, I can click it again with these still selected to undo that, and then I can select them again, click, hold, and drag, and select the bullet list, and I'll leave it at that for now. And of course you can select certain text. I can select the word products, for example, and use these formatting icons to make it bold, or I can click on that to undo that change or make it italic, and you can experiment with these different options. Now, before I add an image to this page, I'm going to go ahead and publish it, and we'll do that by clicking the Publish button. And you have to do this for your page to actually be officially created. Remember, you always have to save your changes, and that also means publishing new material. And let's go ahead and view the front end of our site, and I can do that by opening up this tab here. And remember, we haven't refreshed this page since before we had the WooCommerce plugin generate our e-commerce pages for us. I'm going to go ahead and refresh the page. And now you can see that all of the pages we have on our site are showing up in this main navigation menu here. And this is because the storefront theme automatically puts all of your pages in the main navigation menu if you don't have the menu set up. And of course, we want to have complete control over what appears in our navigation menus, and we don't want our welcome page to have such a long title like this in our menu, even though that is the page title. So we'll be setting up custom menus in just a moment, but I can click on the welcome page here in the navigation menu to open that page up in the front end. And you can see that we have the text that we added using the visual editor showing up here. Now, before we add an image to our welcome page, I want to show you where I usually go to get my free stock photos. And I'm going to close out of this tab and open up a new tab. And pixabay.com is the resource I use, and it's a wonderful resource for free high-quality stock photos, and you can use the images from Pixabay on your site without even having to leave an attribution to the photographer. So it's just a wonderful resource. And I'm going to go ahead and search for woodworking, and all of these images are free to use except for the top row here. These are sponsored images, so of course those are not going to be free, but all of the other images on this page are going to be free to use. And this is the image I want, so I'm going to click on it to open that up. And one thing I want to say about images is you can always scale an image down from the original size without losing quality. But you can't do the opposite. You can't make an image larger than the original size without the image becoming blurred, for example. So for that reason, I almost always download this medium image size because this is generally going to be about 1280 pixels wide, as you can see there. And that's going to be just about as big as I would ever need for almost anything. So in most cases, I'm going to want the image actually a lot smaller than that so I can scale it down without losing quality. So to download that, you would select the size that you want, and then you can click on download, or you can click on the image and click on download. And then if you don't have a free account with Pixabay, then you would have to put in a CAPTCHA here, and if you can't read it, of course, just click on this icon to bring up something different. And then you would click on download to download that to your hard drive, and make sure you download it somewhere where you can find the file. And I've actually already got all of the images that I'm going to use downloaded and renamed, so I don't have to download this right now. And to add the image to our welcome page, we're going to go back to the back end and make sure you're on the page editor screen for the welcome page. And I find that it's generally a good idea to add your text using the visual editor before you add your images, and the reason for this is it just makes it easier for your images and your text to align properly. And since we want the image to be to the far left of our text and we want that text to wrap around the image, I'm going to click my cursor to the far upper left here, and you want it to be blinking right there, so I want my image to go right there. And then click on Add Media. And we do need to be on the Upload Files tab because we're going to upload this file from our computer. So we need to find the file on our computer by clicking on Select Files. And I've got it saved in this Images folder. I'm going to click on the image that I want there. And you can see it's the 1280 pixel wide image. Then I'm going to click on Open. And I do want to point out real quick here, you have these three options: the caption, alt text, and description. This would be a good idea to fill out using just brief text that describes the image, and the reason you would do that is to optimize your image for search engine optimization, because search engines can't read photos, so giving the search engine text that represents the photo would be a good idea there, but for the sake of time and for the tutorial we won't worry about that. Then for the alignment, since we do want this image to appear to the left of our text, I need to select where it says none, click on that and choose left, and we want the text to wrap around the image, so that left alignment is what we want to choose. And then the link to, if you leave it to media file, that would mean that the image would be a clickable link on the front end of your site, so if you clicked on it, it would open up the image in a different window. We don't want that. We actually want to choose none. We don't want this image to be a link to anywhere, but you could use a custom URL, and if you did that, you would be able to paste in the URL to anywhere on the web where you wanted this image to be a link to, but we're going to leave it, like I said, to none. And then for the size option, if we click where it says medium, you have several different sizes. If we use the full size image, that would be much too large for our web page, and I find that the 300 pixel wide medium image is a good size to use, so I'm going to keep it selected to that. And then I'm going to click on Insert into Page, and then I'm going to click on Update to save the page changes that we made here. And now if I go back to the front end of my site, and we're already on the welcome page, I'm going to refresh the page and scroll down. You can see that we have the image added, and it is the 300 pixel wide image size. It's not a clickable link because we selected that option, and if the text was long enough, it would actually wrap around and come down here beneath the image. The last thing I want to do is show you how to make any text a clickable link to anywhere on the web, including of course the website that we're working on. To do that, let's go back to the page editor, and you would select the text that you want. So I want to select the Our Products text, so I'm going to select that, and then I'm going to click on the link icon here. And when I do that, it brings up this option. I could paste in a URL, so for example, if I wanted this to be a link to google.com, I could type in google.com at the end of http:// and that would, if I added the link and saved and updated the page, that would make the Our Products text a link to Google. But in this case, I want to link to other content on my site, so I'm going to click on Link to Existing Content here. And even though I haven't added any products yet, I still have the shop page created, which is where my products will eventually show up when we do create them, and that's because WooCommerce created the shop page for us. So I'm going to link to the shop page. So I'm going to click on that and then click on Add Link. And if you wanted to remove the link, you could select the link text and click on the Remove Link icon here. And of course, we want to keep it this way. And before I update this, I do want to show you real quick, this is really cool, the text editor. If we click on the text editor, you can see that it's creating HTML code for us when we add content using the visual editor. So that's just a really cool thing I like to point out there. But we'll of course switch back to the visual editor, and then we're going to update the page to save these changes. And if we go back and view the front end of our site and refresh the page, our products is now a clickable link, and we can click on it and be taken to the shop page. Alright, the next thing we're going to do is set up our front page to be the welcome page that we've created. And before we do that, I want to show you what the front page is by default. If we just typed in our domain name, like that, or we could just click on the site title, either way. So you can see we're at just our domain name, and by default WordPress is displaying our blog as the front page, and this is the sample blog post that comes with WordPress. And of course we want our front page to display our welcome page, not a blog. So to do that, we're going to go back to the back end, and you're going to go to Settings and click on Reading. And you can see right here, front page displays is set to your latest posts, and that is referring to your latest blog posts. And we want it to be the welcome page, so I need to select a static page there. And then next to front page, I'm going to click on select, and this will show all the pages that we have created. I want to choose the page that I want to be my front page, which is the welcome page. So I'll select that. And then if I wanted to have a blog, and I didn't want the blog to be my front page, then I could create a page by going to Pages, Add New, and I could call it whatever I want, blog for example. And then here I would click and select the page that I wanted to be my blog page. But we're not going to go over a blog, and we're not going to set up a blog for this tutorial. So I'm just going to leave the post page set to select, and that way I won't have a blog on my website. And then I'll scroll down and click on Save Changes. And now if we go back and view the front end of our WordPress website, and we are on the home page, the front page, if I refresh this page, you can see that it's now displaying the welcome page as our front page. Alright, the next thing we're going to do is create our contact page. So to do that, let's go back to the back end of our WordPress site, and we're going to go to Pages and click on Add New. And then we're going to give this a title, and we'll call it Contact Us. And I'm going to go ahead and publish the page. And then to add a contact form to our Contact Us page, we need to install a plugin, a contact form plugin. So to do that, let's go to Plugins and click on Add New. And this time, instead of downloading the plugin to our computer and then uploading the plugin file from our computer to our WordPress site, we're actually going to download the plugin directly from the WordPress directory. So to do that, we're going to search for the plugin by clicking this box here, and I'm going to type in Contact Form 7 and press Enter on my keypad. And this first option on the left here should be the plugin that you want. Go ahead and click on Install Now. Click on OK. And then we need to activate the plugin, so click on that. And we should now have this contact option here on the left. Go ahead and click on that. And then click on the contact form 1 that should have been created by default to open up the contact form. And then scroll down. And underneath mail where it says to, this is the email address that you put in when we installed WordPress onto your hosting account. If you need to change this, this is going to be the email address where your contact form submissions are sent to. If you need to change that, you would change it here by putting in the email that you need, and then you would scroll up to the top and you would need to save that change. And then to add the contact form to our contact page, we need to copy the shortcode here. So select all of that, make sure you get the brackets on each side, and we're going to copy that. And then we're going to go back to Pages and click on All Pages. And click on Contact Us to open up the Contact Us page. And then we're going to switch to the text editor just because I find that it's usually a good idea to use the text editor for shortcodes. And then we're going to paste that shortcode in. And then we're going to click on Update to update the contact page. And now if we view the front end of our site and refresh the page, our Contact Us page should be automatically added to the main navigation menu, and if we click on it, you see that we now have a contact form, and people could fill this out, click on the send button, and it would email a copy of this form to the email address that you specified on the contact form. Now before we add our products, we're going to go ahead and create our navigation menus, and like I pointed out earlier, by default with the storefront theme, the pages that we have on our site are automatically added to our main navigation menu. And remember, we don't necessarily want that. We want to have complete control over what pages appear in our navigation menu and in what order they appear in. So to set up our navigation menus, we're going to go back to the back end of our WordPress site, and you're going to go to Appearance and click on Menus. And the first thing we need to do is give our menu a title, and I'll call this one Main Navigation Menu. And then I need to click on Create Menu. And then go to Screen Options at the top right here, click on that, and make sure that Pages is selected, and then click on Screen Options to minimize that. And it should be by default, but that's going to bring up your Pages option. So all the pages that we have created on our site are showing up here on the left, and then we need to check the box next to each one that we want added to our main navigation menu. So I'm going to check My Account, I'm going to check the Welcome page, the Checkout page, the Cart, and the Shop page. And then I'm going to click on Add to Menu. Alright, and then to rearrange the menu items, let's say I want my Shop page to come in between the My Account page and the Welcome page. All I have to do is hover over the Shop page, click, hold, and then drag that up and then release it right underneath the Welcome page. And it's important not to indent it like that. That's actually going to create a drop down, and we'll go over that in just a moment. So we need it just like that, and then I'll leave the rest of these in the order that they're in by default. And then scroll down, and the next thing you need to do is assign your menu to a theme location. And different WordPress themes will have different theme locations for your menus. In the case of the storefront theme, we have a primary menu spot and a secondary menu spot. And this is going to be my primary menu, so I'm going to click the box next to primary menu. And then I need to click on Save Menu to save the changes. And actually, real quick, I do want to show you how to delete menu items if you didn't want a certain page on your menu. If we wanted to delete the Shop page, for example, we can click on this arrow here, and that's going to drop down some additional options, and we can click on Remove, and that's going to take the Shop page away from our menu. And of course, we do want the Shop page, so I'm going to add it back by clicking the box, click on Add to Menu, and then I'll click, hold, and drag that back up to the top and save the menu again. And then let's view the front end of our site, and I'm going to refresh the page, and you'll see that we now have our custom menu showing up in the main navigation spot. And we obviously do not want our welcome page to have such a long title in the navigation menu, so let's go back and I'm going to show you how to change that. Go back to the back end, and again under Appearance Menus, we're going to click the arrow that represents the welcome page menu item to drop down the options. And where it says navigation label, by default, this of course takes on the page title, and we just want this to say home. So I'm going to change it to home, and then I'm going to click on Save Menu. And if we go back and view the front end of our site and refresh the page, it now says home, and I can click on it, and of course that's going to take me to the home page. After we add our products to our site, we're going to create a drop-down menu using product categories, but real quick I want to show you how to create a drop-down menu, just so you're aware of that. Let's go back to the back end, and again under Appearance Menus, and let's say we want the My Account page to appear as a drop-down when we hover over the Shop menu item. To do that, we'll click, hold, and drag and release the My Account page so that it's indented just like that. And just so you know, if you're having trouble with the drag and drop functionality, all you have to do is click on the arrow to pull down the options for the menu item you want to adjust. And if we wanted this out from under Shop, for example, we could click on that and that would move it. Or if we wanted it under Shop, we could click on that just like that. So we'll leave it like that, and I can click on the arrow to minimize those options. And then if I save the menu and go back to the front end of our website and refresh the page, now when I hover over Shop, it's going to pull up the My Account option. Let's go back, and of course we don't want that to stay that way, so we're going to change it back the way it was and save the menu again. Now let's say you want to have a navigation menu item that links to another page on the internet that's not on your website. You can easily do that by first going to Screen Options, click on that, and make sure Links is selected. Then click on Screen Options to minimize that. Then scroll down and we should have this Links option appearing here. Click on that. And first we'll give it a text, and let's say we want to link to google.com. For the link text, you can call it whatever you want it to display in the navigation menu. I'll call it Google. And then for the URL, we just need to put in the URL for Google, which is going to be http://google.com. So I'll put that in and then click on Add to Menu. And we'll just leave it at the bottom there. And then if I save the menu and go back to the front end and refresh my website, you'll see that we now have this Google appearing at the end. And if I click on that, of course, that takes me to Google there. But let's go back. And then I want to go back to the back end, and of course I'm going to scroll down and click on the arrow and click on Remove to remove this menu item. And I'm going to save this menu. So that change takes effect. And if I scroll down, you can see, like I pointed out earlier, the theme has two menu locations. So let's create a second menu for our secondary menu location. And to do that, we're going to come up to the top and click on Create a New Menu. And I'm going to call this Secondary Menu. Give it a title, whatever you want to call it, and click on Create Menu. And then I'm going to select the pages that I want to add. I'm going to add the contact page, the My Account, the checkout page, and the cart page. So I'm going to select those and click on Add to Menu. And then I'm going to scroll down, and I need to assign this menu to the secondary menu location by clicking the box there and click on Save Menu. And now if I view the front end of my site and refresh the page, you see that we now have our secondary menu showing up here. And just to show you that this is working properly, I'm going to click on the Contact Us menu item, and that's going to take me to the contact page. Now I do want to point out, if you need to edit one of your menus, let's go back to the back end, and if you went to Appearance and Menus, you would need to select the menu that you wanted to edit. So now that we have two, if we click here, both of those menus would show up here as options. And if we wanted to edit the main navigation menu, for example, we could click on that and click Select, and that will load our main navigation menu. Alright, the next thing we're going to do is add our first product, and to add a product, go over to the left and hover over Products and then click on Add Product. And the first thing you need to do is give your product a name, and the first product we'll create is going to be the Nuts and Bolts product, so I'm going to type that in. And then below the product title, you have a visual editor and then also the tab for the text editor. We're going to be using the visual editor, so I'm going to click on that. And this works exactly the same way as when we created our welcome page. You can hover over this toolbar toggle icon and click on that to get these additional formatting options. And you can add media to add images just the same way that we did on the welcome page. We're just going to be adding text to this visual editor, and for this spot, this is where you would add the long description, and in just a moment when we publish this product, you'll see where that shows up on the front end of your site. And I'm just going to copy and paste some text that I have here. And I'll paste that in, press enter on my keypad and paste it in again. And then the next thing we need to do is go to the top right, click on the Screen Options tab there, and that's going to pull these options down. Make sure all of these options are checked except for slug. We don't necessarily need slug, so you can leave that unchecked. And then click on Screen Options again. And what that's going to do when we scroll down, that's going to ensure that all of those options are actually displaying on your site visually. And that's definitely important to be able to access these different options. And the first thing we're going to do down here is you might need to click on Product Data to bring up these additional options, and then make sure you're on the General tab. And next to Product Data, you have the product type. And most of our products will be simple products, but if we click on that, we have different options. And a simple product is going to be your standard product that doesn't have extra features or options. And an advanced variable product, which we'll get into later in the video in just a moment, might have additional options such as a size or a color option. But we're going to leave our Nuts and Bolts product to the simple product type. And then again, click on the General to make sure that you are seeing these options here. The first thing we need to do is add a regular price, and for this Nuts and Bolts product, I'm going to put in 5.00 to make that $5, and then I can click out here. And then if you wanted a product to be on sale, you could add a sale price, and we'll do that just to demonstrate how that works. I'll add a sale price of $4. type that in and then click out here. And then if you click on the inventory tab, you do have the option to manage your inventory, and we're actually not going to do that, but just to show you how that would work, if you wanted to manage your inventory, you could click on the box here to enable stock management, and then you would enter the number of how many products you had starting out here. So for example, if you had 10 nuts and bolts products, you could add 10, and every time a customer purchased one of these products, it would reduce this number by 1, so that you aren't selling products that you don't actually have in stock. But we're going to uncheck that because we're not going to be using inventory management. Shipping options, we're going to leave these to the default settings for now, and then linked products and attributes we'll go over later in the video. And then for advanced settings, if you click on that, you could select this, check that box there to enable product reviews, and if you had that checked, your customers would be able to go to the My Account page and create an account, and then they would be able to log in and actually leave product reviews. But we're not going to enable product reviews for this tutorial, so I'll leave that unchecked. And then you need to scroll down, and we have another visual editor, visual and text editor here, and this is where you would add the short description for the product. And I'm just going to add some text that I've already got typed out here. I'll copy and paste this in, and then I'm going to scroll up, and you do need to have a featured image for every product. So where it says featured image here, click on set featured image, and this is going to be the image that represents your product throughout your website. So I'm going to click on upload files, and then click on select files since I need to upload this file from my hard drive. Then I'm going to find the file on my computer. I've got it saved to a folder here on my desktop, and I'm going to click to select the image and then click on open. And then I'm going to click on Set Featured Image. And then another option you have is to add product gallery images. And if you wanted to do that, you would do that here by clicking on Add Product Gallery Images. And I'm just going to do this for the nuts and bolts product just to show you how this works. I'm going to click on Upload Files again, and then click on Select Files, and find the files on my hard drive. I'm going to click on Bolt, and then I'm going to hold Shift on my keypad and click on Bolt 2. And then that's going to select both of those, and then I can click on Open, and that's going to upload both of those images to my WordPress website. And then I'm going to click on Add to Gallery, and that's going to put those product gallery images in place. And I could always hover over these and click on the X to remove them, and the same with the featured image. I could click on Remove Featured Image if I wanted to add a different image. And then the next thing we need to do is scroll up, and where it says Product Categories, go ahead and click on that arrow to bring up those options. And product categories are a great way to organize your products and keep your store organized for your customers. And we can add multiple categories for each product if you wish to. And to add a product category, click on where it says Add New Product Category. And the first product category, I'm going to say Construction Equipment. So I'll type that in. And then click on Add New Product Category. And that's going to put that up there at the top. And then we're going to add one more, and I'm going to type in hardware and click on Add New Product Category. Alright, and then now that those categories are created, I could always uncheck them if I didn't want this particular product to be involved with the construction equipment product, for example, but I do, so I'm going to leave it checked. And then I need to publish the product by clicking on Publish. And now if we go to the front end of our WordPress website and click on our Shop tab, you see that we have our nuts and bolts product displaying with the featured image here. And also, because we made this product on sale, it says it is a sale product, and it's got the original price and the sale price. And I can hover over and click on the image to be taken to the actual nuts and bolts product page. And you see we have the featured image here, and we also have our gallery images showing up here, so I can either click on the gallery images or the featured images, or featured image, and that's going to open up in a nice lightbox effect like you see here, and the user would be able to scroll through and look at the different images you have. And I can click on the X to exit out of that. We have the product title here, and the price is $4 here, and then this is where your short description is going to show up. And of course we have the quantity here and the add to cart option here, and both of the product categories that we put in are listed here. And if you scroll down, you have the product long description here beneath the featured image section. And now that I have my first simple product added, I'm going to go back and follow the exact same steps and add 4 more simple products. So let's go back to the back end. And by the way, you could go to products and click on products, and that would take you to a page that lists all the products that you have created. In our case, we only have one, the nuts and bolts product, but as we add more will show up on this page. And of course, you could click on the title of the product and open up the product page editor. But we're going to add a new product, so you can go to products, click on add product, or we can click on add product at the top here. And I'll do this as quickly as possible. I'll be following the exact same steps that we did before with the nuts and bolts product. I'm going to add the washers product. I'm going to copy and paste a long description in. Then I'm going to scroll down, and under product data, and within the general settings, I'm going to give it a regular price of $4, and all these other settings will leave to the default option. Then I'll scroll down and add a short description by copying and pasting some text in there. And then I'll scroll up, and I'm not going to worry about product gallery images, but I am going to add a featured image, so I'll click on set featured image, and then I'll click on upload files because I need this file from my hard drive. Click on select files, and I'll find the washer image that I want, click on open, and then I'll click on set featured image, and then scroll up, and I do want to assign the washers product to both the construction equipment category and the hardware category, so I'll check the boxes there, and then click on publish. And then I'll click on add product again here at the top, and this is going to be the drill bit set, so I'll give it a title, and then I'll paste in a long description, copy this, and paste that in there a couple of times. And then I'll scroll down, and under the general product data settings, I'll give it a regular price of $21. Then I'll scroll down and paste in a short description for the drill bit set. Paste that in there, scroll up to the top, click on set featured image, click on upload files, and then click on select files. And I'll select the image on my hard drive that I want, click on open, and then click on set featured image, and then we'll scroll up, and I am going to assign this to the construction equipment category, but I'm not going to assign it to the hardware category. Instead, I'm going to add a new category by clicking on add new product category, and this category is just going to be tools, so I'll type that in there and click on add new product category, and then I'm going to publish this product, and then I'll click on add product. And this is going to be my drill. I'll give it a title, and then I'll paste in a long description. Paste that in again, scroll down, and under general settings, I'm going to give it a price of $125. Then I'll scroll down and paste in a short description. Paste that in, and then add the period that I didn't get there. And then I'll scroll up and click on set featured image. Click on upload files, select files, and I'll select the drill image and click on open. And then I'll click on set featured image, and then I'll scroll up and assign the drill product to the construction equipment and the tools categories, and then I'll click on publish. And then I'll click on add product once more. And this last simple product is going to be the ratchet set, so I'll type that in there for the product title, and then I'll paste in the long description. Copy and paste that in there a couple of times. Then I'll scroll down, and under the general settings, I'll give it a regular price of $45. Then I'll scroll down and paste in the short description, of course. Paste that in, scroll up, click on set featured image, click on upload files and select files, and I'll click on the ratchet set image there and click on open, and then I'll click on set featured image and scroll up and assign this product to the construction equipment and the tools categories, and then scroll up and publish the product. Now before we add our variable advanced product, let's go back and view the front end of our site, and I'm going to click on the shop menu item. Alright, I'm sorry to interrupt the flow here, but before we view our shop page, I've got my screen paused so that you can see that there's now all of a sudden a purple outline surrounding any link on my site when I click on it. And in this case, because I've just clicked on the shop page menu item, you can see that the purple outline is wrapping around it. And I'm not exactly sure why this started happening, but it seems to be doing this with both the Chrome and Firefox browsers. But fortunately, there's a very simple way to completely fix this, and we'll go over that when we install the Jetpack plugin later in the video. And you can see that we now have all the products that we've created showing up here, and of course I can click on each individual product image to be taken to the individual product page. Alright, now let's say that you have a product that comes with several different options, and this would be considered a variable product because there would be several different variations to choose from. A common example would be a t-shirt, because you can have a t-shirt with different size options and with different color options. So the variable product that we're going to use is a tape measure, and we'll have two sizes, large and small, and also we'll have two different materials, plastic and metallic. And this means that there will be a total of 4 possible product variations, because you can have a plastic large or small tape measure, or you can have a metallic large or small tape measure. So we'll set it up so that each variation will have its own price, and also we want to show different pictures for the metallic and the plastic options. So to create our variable product, let's go back to the back end, and you need to go to Products and click on Add Product. And then of course we'll give it a title, and this is going to be the tape measure product. And then I'll paste in a long description. Press enter and paste that in again, and then I'll scroll down. And the first thing we need to do under the product data settings, we need to change this from a simple product to a variable product. And notice that we no longer have an option to put in a price for the variable product, and this is because we need to price each product variation separately. So the next thing we need to do is create our attributes. So I'm going to click on Attributes. And attributes are simply another name for the different options that you have. So following the t-shirt example, your attributes might be size and color. But with the tape measure, we're going to have a material attribute because we have a metallic and a plastic option, and we're going to also have a size attribute because we have a large and small option. So the first thing I'm going to do is click on Add to create our first attribute. And then I need to give it a name, and this is going to be material. So I'll type in material. And then I can click out here, and I want to check both of these options because I want this material option to be visible on the product page, and I'm going to use it for the product variation, so both of those do need to be checked. And then for the value, these are simply the options within the material attribute. So for the material, the values are going to be metallic and plastic. So I'm going to type in metallic, and then I'm going to type in space, and then you need to separate your different attributes using the pipe symbol on your keypad. And this should be underneath your delete key, and you probably will have to hold shift on your keypad while pressing that, and it's just going to look just like that. And again, that's on my keypad, it's under the delete key. And then I'm going to press space on my keypad and type in the other value for the material attribute, which is going to be plastic. And then I need to click on Save Attributes. And then I'm going to click on Add to add my size attribute. Scroll down and give it a name, and of course it's going to be size. And I'm going to check to use this for variations as well. And then for the value, I'm going to type in small, space, and then I'm going to hold shift and press the pipe symbol on my keypad and type in space again, and large is going to be the other size option. And then I'm going to click on Save Attributes. And then I'm going to click on Variations. And I'm going to click on Link All Variations. And then I need to click on OK. And in this example, we should have 4 variations created, and that is what you see here. So I'm going to click on OK. And I do want to point out something that some of you might run into real quick. If you click on Link All Variations, and then you find that the variations were actually not properly created, all you need to do is remove any variations that were created by just clicking on the remove options here. And then you would need to scroll up and publish the product. So of course the attributes would be saved. And you would need to go back and go to the Variations tab and click on Link All Variations again, and that time it should work properly. And then of course you would need to update the product to save those changes. So now you can see we have each variation created, and by the way, you might need to click on the arrow to bring down the options for each variation, but you can see we have a metallic small variation. If we scroll down, we have a plastic small, and then we're going to have a metallic large, and we have a plastic large. So I'm going to scroll up to the top here, and the first thing I need to do is add a picture for each one of these, and to do that you just click on the icon here underneath. So this is going to be for the metallic small option, so I'm going to click on this icon, and then I'm going to click on upload files and click on select files, and on my hard drive I've got the metallic tape measure image, so I'm going to select that and click on open, let that upload, and then click on set variation image. And then I need to choose a price for the metallic small variation, and I put that underneath regular price there, and for this one it's going to be $20, so I'm going to type in 20.00, and then I can click here, and then I'm going to scroll down, and for the plastic small I'm going to click on this icon to upload an image, and I'm going to click on upload files, select files, and I've got the plastic tape measure picture, so I'm going to click on open, and then set variation image, and then the price for the plastic small is going to be $15, so I'll type that in there and scroll down, and for the metallic large I'll click on the image icon, and since I already have this image, I'm going to use the same image. I already have it uploaded to my media library, so I can be under that tab and just select the image and then click on set variation image, and then the price for the metallic large is going to be $25, so I'll put in 25.00 and scroll down, and for the last variation I'm going to click to upload the image, and actually I already have the image uploaded. I'm just going to select it in my media library, set variation image, and give it a price of $20. And then we need to scroll up towards the top here, and we do need to select, actually we need to scroll down to the bottom, and we do need to select a default option, and that's the default option that's going to show up on the product page for the customer by default, and we'll just make that the metallic small. And then scroll down, and we're going to add a short description. I'll just paste in some text. And then scroll up, and we do need to set a featured image. Even though we added images individually for each variation, we do need to have a featured image that will represent the tape measure product on our shop page. So I'm going to click on set featured image, and then within my media library tab I'm going to use the metallic image, since that is the default tape measure, the metallic small. So I'll click on set featured image, then scroll up, and we need to assign the tape measure to product categories. I'll use construction equipment and tools, and then I'm going to scroll up and publish the product. And now if we go back to the front end of our site and click on the shop tab and scroll down, and we can click on the tape measure product. And I do want to point out that the lines you see here will not show up when we fix the previously mentioned problem. To be taken to the tape measure product page, and you see that we have our material and our size options, and by default we do have the metallic small because that's the option we selected by default, the variation we selected. And if I change this to, for example, the plastic small, you'll see that the price changes and the image that displays is also changed. And for example, the plastic large would change just the price because it's still the plastic image that we have. Alright, now that we have all of our products in place, let's say we want to create a page that lists all of our product categories, and that would just make it easier for the user to be able to browse our different products. We can easily do that by creating the page and then adding a WooCommerce product category shortcode to that page. So first I'm going to go back to my back end, and I'm going to create the page by going to Pages and click on Add New. And I'll just give this a title and call it Product Categories. And I'm going to go ahead and publish the page. And then to access the WooCommerce shortcodes, we can go to WooCommerce here on the left and click on Settings. And then up here at the top, click on Help and click on WooCommerce Documentation. And then we're going to search the documentation for shortcodes. So I'll just type that in and press Enter. Then I'll scroll down, and I'm going to click on the second option that says shortcodes included with WooCommerce. Then I'm going to scroll down, and I'm going to click on product categories here, and that's going to bring me to the product categories shortcode. And all I need to do is copy this shortcode and make sure you get both brackets on each side. You want all the characters, and we'll copy that. And I'm going to back up and go back to my back end and go back to Pages and click on All Pages. And I'm going to click on the product categories that we just created, and of course it's blank right now. And then since we are using a shortcode, I'm going to switch to the text editor. And then I'm going to click in the text editor and paste in that shortcode. And I do want to point out that by default the shortcode includes the number 12, and basically what that means is if you had more than 12 products, or more than 12 product categories rather, it would display your first 12 categories. If you wanted to display all of your categories and you did have more than 12, then you could just simply remove the number 12, but be sure to leave the quotation marks in place. Since we only have 3 categories, it doesn't really matter, but I just want to point that out. So we'll leave it like that, and I'm going to go ahead and update the product categories page. And now, since we haven't added the product categories page to our menu, I'm going to click on View Page here to view the page on my front end. And you can see that we have our 3 product categories showing up here, but notice, of course, we don't have an image to represent each product category. So we're going to do that by going back, and I'm going to go back to my back end, and go to Products here on the left, hover over that, and then click on Categories. And all of your product categories should be displaying here on the right, and you can see that we have all 3 of our categories showing up. To add an image to represent each category, hover over that category and click on the edit text there. So for construction equipment, we'll scroll down and click on Upload/Add Image. And if you needed to upload the file from your hard drive, you could do that here. But we're going to stay in the media library because the image I want to use is already added, and that's going to be the ratchet set image to represent my construction equipment category. So I'll click on Use Image, and then I need to click on Update for that to take effect. And then I'll hover over Hardware and I'll click on Edit and scroll down and click on Upload/Add Image. And for the hardware, I'm going to use the Bolt image to represent that category. So I'll click on Use Image and click on Update. And then I'll hover over Tools and I'll click on Edit. Scroll down and click on Upload/Add Image, and I'll use the drill picture to represent the Tools category. So click on Use Image and update that. Now before we view the product categories page on our front end, let's go ahead and add it to our menu. And to do that, of course, we're going to go to Appearance here on the left and click on Menus. And I do want to add the product categories page to my main navigation menu, so that is the one that I want selected, and it is by default. So to add that, I'm going to scroll down and find the product categories page. It's right here. I'm going to click on that and click on Add to Menu. And I want this product categories page, the menu item, to appear below the shop or next to the shop page. So I'm going to click, hold, and drag and release that right there. And then to create a drop down so that when you hover over product categories, it displays all the individual categories, what I'm going to do, you need to scroll up to the top and click on Screen Options, and you need to make sure that product categories is selected. By default, you have categories selected. This is actually referring to blog post categories, but we need to select product categories. So I'm going to check that box and then click on Screen Options to minimize those options. And then I'll scroll down, and I now have this product categories option here showing up. So I can click on the arrow to drop those down, and I'm going to click on Select All because I want all 3 of my categories to display as a drop down. And then I'll click on Add to Menu. Then I'll scroll down, and one at a time I'll click, hold, and drag and move these underneath and indented and release just like that. And I'll do that with Tools, click, hold, and drag and indent that. And with Hardware, click, hold, and drag and move it over and release just like that. And then I need to click on Save Menu. And now if we view the front end of our site and refresh the page, I now have the product categories menu item showing up, and when I hover over it, it displays each individual product category just like that. And just to show you, I could click on the product categories menu item, and that's going to take me to the product categories page, and we now have, of course, our thumbnail images that represent each product category. And I can click on each one of these to be taken to a page that shows all the products within that category. And also I can hover over the product category menu item and click on each one of these to be taken to a page that displays all the products within that category. Alright, now that we have all of our products added to our website, I want to discuss product image size settings. And to access those settings, go back to the back end And on the left, hover over WooCommerce and click on Settings. And then click on Products at the top. And then you need to click on Display here. And then scroll down. Under Product Images, you see that we have 3 different image types. The catalog images, by default with the current version of WooCommerce, the settings are set to 300 by 300 pixels for the catalog image sizes. And if I hover over the question mark, it'll tell me that catalog images is referring to the size usually used in product listings. Now I'm going to go back to the front end of my site. And currently we're on the construction equipment product categories page, and these are catalog listings. Okay, if I click on shop to be taken to my shop page, the images are the exact same size because these are also product catalog listing images. Now what's interesting, I'm going to use a tool that I've got called Measure It for the Firefox browser, and you don't necessarily need that tool, but I'm going to activate that tool, and I'm going to measure roughly the size of one of these catalog images. And I just want to show you that you can see that it's about 212 pixels by 212 pixels, which is considerably smaller than the 300 by 300 pixel setting for under our WooCommerce settings. Now the reason for this, I'm going to go back to the settings. The reason for this is because the storefront theme is designed to put a limitation on the size of your different images. So in the case of the storefront theme, it will only allow you to get as big as roughly 212 by 212 pixels for the catalog images. And the same holds true for the single product image and the product thumbnails image. To demonstrate that, the single product image, this is referring to the featured image of each product on the product page, is set to 600 by 600 pixels. If I go back to the front end, I'm going to exit out of the Measure It tool and click on the nuts and bolts product to be taken to that product page. This is the single product image, and if I activate the Measure tool, it's going to be a lot closer to 300 by 300 pixels. You see there. And go back here, the product thumbnails, the 180 by 180, this is actually referring to your gallery images here. And the storefront theme actually forces those images to be much, much smaller than the 180 by 180 pixel setting. Now, you're probably wondering why I'm pointing all of this out. The reason is some of you might be watching this video and you might not actually be using the storefront theme. And if that is the case, I just wanted to point out that you can adjust these settings because different themes will actually have different flexibility options for how big these images can be. So you can change these settings and experiment with them, especially if you're using a different theme. And if you do that, if you start building your site and then you decide to make some of these dimensions bigger just to see what would happen, and you notice that your images are turning out rather blurry, in other words, they're losing quality, it's not the maximum quality that it once was, you need to use a plugin called Regenerate Thumbnails. And I'm just going to show you how to download and use that plugin real quickly. This will save some of you a big headache. To download the Regenerate Thumbnails plugin, I'm going to go to Plugins and click on Add New. And then I'm going to go over and search for the plugin, and I'm just going to type in Regenerate Thumbnails and press Enter on my keypad to search for that plugin. And it should be this one right here on the top left. I'm going to click on Install Now and click on OK. And then I need to activate the plugin, so click on Activate Plugin. And to use the plugin, so if you notice your images are blurry because you changed those WooCommerce image dimension settings and made them larger, especially when you make them larger, that's when you'll really notice a difference in your image quality. You download the plugin, activate it, and then go to Tools, and you now have this Regen Thumbnails option. Click on that. And all you need to do is click on Regenerate All Thumbnails, and it'll just run its course, and you should be able to go back to the front end after that's complete, and your images should look much, much better. And let's go back to those WooCommerce image settings by going to WooCommerce, click on Settings, and click on Products at the top, and click on Display, and scroll down. The last thing I want to point out is next to Product Image Gallery, this box is checked by default, Enable Lightbox for Product Images. And you want to definitely make sure that's the case. You want to make sure that's checked because, let's go back to the front end. Remember, for our nuts and bolts product, we did add gallery images. And when I click on that, this is the lightbox effect that is enabled. And if you didn't have it enabled with that setting, this setting right here, then it would not display that way. So you definitely want to make sure that's checked. And if you needed to make a change, of course, you would click on Save Changes. Alright, now let's finish setting up our home page. And real quick, I just want to review how to specify which page you want to be your front page. And we did this earlier in the video, but again, just go to Settings on the lower left here, hover over Settings and click on Reading. And we wanted our front page to display a static page, so we selected that option here. And then for the front page, we clicked here and chose the page that we created called our welcome page, and we chose that page to be our front page. And then we're not going to go over blog settings, but if you wanted to have a blog, you could go to Pages and click on Add New and create a page, and you could call it whatever you want, blog for example, and then you would select here the blog page that you created to be your blog. But we're just going to leave it on select because we're not going to have a blog. And if you did need to make any changes here, you would need to scroll down and click on Save Changes. Now we have our front page set up to be our welcome page, so let's go back to the front end. And I'm going to scroll up and click on our site title to be taken to our front page. And you can see that of course we have the page title here at the top, and then we also have the content that we put in using the visual editor, and then we have a sidebar and widget area just like we would have on any other page. Now different WordPress themes will oftentimes have different features and functionality, especially for your home page. And let's go back to the back end. And I'm going to go to hover over Appearances and click on Storefront. And if we scroll down a little bit, we can see that we have this Configure Homepage Template option that would allow us to display a selection of products from our store. And then it tells us to set this up, you need to assign the homepage template to your front page. So to do that, I'm going to scroll up and go to Pages and click on All Pages. And then I'm going to find my welcome page, since that is my front page, and I'm going to click on that to open up the welcome page in the page editor. And then scroll down, and underneath template, you need to click where it says default template, and we're going to select the home page to make that the home page template. And before we update, I do want to point out, make sure that you click on screen options and make sure that you have page attributes selected there, and then click on screen options to minimize that. And that way you do have the option to change the template. So with the homepage template selected, I'm going to update the page. And now I'm going to go back to the front end of my site, and we are on the home page, so I'm just going to refresh this page. And notice that instead of having a sidebar, it's now just a full width page, and we have our content showing up at the top. And then if I scroll down, we have different product categories showing up here. We have product categories, we have recent products, featured products, top rated products, which we don't have anything in either of those yet, and then we have on sale products, and of course we just have one product on sale and it's showing up there. Now we want to have control over what product selections show up here, and as well as what order we want them to show up in. So let's go back to the back end, and I'm going to go back to Appearance, and I'm going to click on Storefront again. And we'll scroll down, and now that we have the homepage template set up on our welcome page, we can download a plugin called Homepage Control, and that's going to give us the ability to reorder the homepage components. So to install that plugin, I'm going to go to Plugins here on the left and click on Add New. And then I'm going to come up here to the right, to the top right, and search for Homepage Control. And then homepage is one word, and then I'm going to press Enter. And it should be this first one on the upper left here. I'm going to click on Install Now and click on OK. And then I'm going to activate the plugin. Click on that. And then to access the homepage control settings, we can now go to Appearance, and we now have this homepage option because we just installed the plugin. So I'm going to click on that. And then I'm going to keep the storefront homepage content enabled by leaving this box checked, and I'm also going to leave it at the top. And of course the homepage content is referring to the content that we put in on our welcome page using the visual editor. That's the homepage content. And I'm going to go ahead and disable storefront product categories by unchecking that there. And that's just a preference because I have my product categories in the menu, but of course you can do whatever you like here. And then I'm going to also disable the popular products. I'm not going to be using that. And then I'm going to rearrange some of these. I'm going to put the recent products at the top there, right underneath homepage content. And then I'm going to put the featured products underneath that by click holding and dragging, and the on sale products under that by click holding, dragging, and releasing there. And then I'm going to click on Save Changes. And notice that we enabled the storefront featured products, but we haven't actually set up our featured products yet. And to do that, it's very easy. All you need to do is go hover over products and click on products. And then this is going to display all of our products, and of course we can click on the product titles here to open up the product page editor. But all you need to do to make one of your products featured is hover over the star here, and I'm going to make the drill product featured by clicking on the star and give that a second. And now you can see that we have the star enabled, and that is going to make the drill a featured product. And by the way, you do want to go to screen options and make sure that you do have featured selected here. And then I'll click screen options to minimize that. And I'm also going to make my ratchet set featured by clicking the star corresponding to the ratchet set. And if you wanted the product to no longer be a featured product, of course you would just click on the star again. Alright, and now I'm going to view the front end of my site and scroll up to the top here. We are on the front page. I'm going to refresh that. And of course we still have our content, our homepage content here at the top, just like we specified with the homepage control plugin. And then we have our recent products. And then now we have our featured products, which of course we just set to be the ratchet set and the drill. And then we have our on sale products, and that is just the one product that we have on sale. Now before we set up shipping, taxes, and payment options, let's go ahead and set up our color scheme and our logo. The storefront theme color scheme is completely customizable, so what I want to do first is find a color scheme that I like, and for that I'm going to close out of this tab that we no longer need and open a new tab. I'm going to go to a website called colorlovers.com, and color is spelled O-U-R at the end. And what you can do here is you can go to browse and click on palettes. And they've got all kinds of wonderful color palettes that you can browse through and just find something you like. Or you can do what I did and search palettes. And I felt like that a nice black and yellow color scheme would look good, especially given the theme of construction equipment. So I just searched for black and yellow and click on the search icon. And I just perused the different results until I found one that I really liked, and I went through quite a few pages, I think page 7. I found this color scheme called Common Collected, and I really like the black and yellow shades, and I also like the green. I can use the green to accent the color scheme of my website. So I'm going to click on the color scheme here to open that up. And then I'm going to scroll down. And what we need to have are the 6-digit hex codes that are represented with either 6 letters or 6 numbers, and sometimes a combination of both. And those hex codes represent the exact shade that you see. So we're going to use those hex codes when we go back to our back end to set up our color scheme. So to do that, let's go back to the back end and go to Appearance, hover over Appearance, and click on Customize here towards the top. And all of our customization options are here on the left, and what's really cool is that when we make changes here, even though we haven't actually saved them, we'll be able to see what those changes would look like if we were to save them. So I'm going to start with the header. So I'm going to click where it says header. I'm going to click on the arrow to drop down those options. And you could use a background image, and you would upload that here if you wanted to do that, but I'm actually going to use a background color. And the color I want to use is that darker black tint. And to adjust that, I'm going to click on Select Color underneath the background color. And of course I could scroll down and I could experiment with all kinds of different options by dragging and clicking around, choosing all sorts of different colors and tints and shades. But what I'm going to do is copy and paste in the hex code. So I'm going to go back to my color palette and I'm going to copy the 6-digit hex code here. And you definitely want to be sure to get all 6 digits. Then I'm going to go back to the back end and paste those in. And you can leave the pound symbol in place there, and that's fine. Just make sure that you don't have any additional characters. And you see that our header background has now changed to that dark black tint. And then I'm going to scroll down, and for the text color, and this is again under the header category that you see, I'm going to make the text color the yellow shade from my color palette. So I'm going to go back to the color palette, and I'm going to copy the hex code for the yellow tint and go back and click where it says select color underneath text color, and then I'm going to select the digits and letters there and paste in the new hex code. You can see that that changes, and that looks pretty nice. And I'm going to leave the link color to white. I think that's a really good look for the site. And then the next thing I want to do is adjust my site background color, and that's going to be this color here. And you can probably tell that it looks white, but it's actually got a little bit of a gray tint to it, and I want to make that completely white. So I'm going to come over here to the left and scroll up, and I'm going to click on the arrow next to background. And again, you could also use a background image. We're going to be using a background color, of course. So I'm going to click on select color, and the hex code for white is actually just 6 F's in a row. So I'm going to select where it says FC, FC, FC and change that. And that looks pretty good. You can probably tell on the video that that is a little bit lighter than it was. And then the next thing we'll do is scroll down, and we're going to click on the arrow to bring down our footer options. And for the footer, I'm going to make the background color the same color as we did for our header. So I'm going to scroll down so we can see our footer. This is our footer right now, and you can see the background color is this light gray by default. So I'm going to go back to the color palette and copy the hex code for our header color. Go back and click on select color next to background or underneath background color for the footer, and select the hex code currently in place and paste in the new one. And then for the heading color and the link color, I want those both to be the yellow shade. So I'm going to go back and copy the hex code for the yellow shade, and we'll put those in for the heading color. And I just deleted the pound symbol, and when I paste in the hex code, it puts that in for me automatically, so I just want you to notice that. And then for the link color, we'll do the same thing. Paste in the yellow, and then for the text color, I'm just going to make this white. So I'm just going to remove what's there and type in 6 F's. Alright, and then I'm going to come down and change my font colors, and that's going to be under the typography section, so I can click on the arrow to minimize the font color options. And then I'm going to scroll up on my site and go to the top here so we can actually see our typography. And then for the heading color, I'm going to make the heading the same color as we did with our header, and I'm going to just go back to the palette and real quickly copy the hex code. Click on select color and paste in that hex code. You can see that the text here just got a little bit darker. And then for the text color, which would refer to this text, I'm going to click on select colors and paste in that same hex code. And then I'm going to back it off just a little bit by coming down here and click holding and dragging. And I'm going to just move it up a little bit just to make it a little bit lighter. That looks pretty good there. So I'll just leave it there. And then remember that we added a link to our shop page here on our front page when we created our welcome page, and we can adjust that color here. So I'm going to click on select color, and I'm going to make the link color the green from our color palette. So I'm going to go back and copy the hex code for the green tint, and we'll paste that in. Alright, looks good. Now, none of these changes that we've made would actually take effect unless we come up to the top and click on Save and Publish there. And so consequently, if you didn't want any of these changes to take effect, for example, if you just made a bunch of changes just to experiment and you didn't want them to actually take effect on your front end, you could just click on the X here. But we do want these changes to save, so we're going to click on Save and Publish. And then we're going to go back to the front end of our site and refresh. We'll scroll up and refresh the page. And now you can see that our color scheme has completely changed. The next thing we're going to do is create our logo and add our logo to our site. So let's first go back to the back end, and we can exit out of this by clicking the X since we already have those changes saved. Then you want to go to Appearance here on the left and click on Storefront. Then scroll down, and underneath Add Your Logo, you can see that you need to activate the Jetpack plugin to enable the custom logo option. And your WordPress installation should come with Jetpack by default, and if it does, it should appear here on the left. And if it does not come with WordPress with your installation by default, then you would go to Plugins and you would click on Add New, and you would search for Jetpack, and then you would just install and activate the plugin. And then you're going to go to Jetpack here on the top left. Click on that, and we're going to click on Connect to WordPress.com. And if you don't have an account, you'll need to sign up for an account by clicking on Need an Account. And I'm just going to log in with my WordPress.com credentials. and click on Authorize Jetpack. Alright, now that we have Jetpack authorized, we can go now to Appearance and click on Customize. And this is the same area where we just created our color scheme. And now we have this option to add a logo up here at the top. So this, I'm going to click on the arrow there, and this is where we're going to add our logo. But first we need to create our logo. So to do that, I'm going to open up a new tab, and you definitely want to keep your color palette tab open so you can grab the hex codes. I'm going to go to a site called picmonkey.com. This is a wonderful free graphic editor. And when you get there, hover over Design, and then come down and choose this custom option. And I'm going to type in 500 by 500 pixels. Our logo is actually going to be much smaller than that, but we're going to be able to crop it down. And then click on Make It. And I do want to point out here that it is possible that the PicMonkey application might not load properly. If that happens, just reload the page and it should work fine. And then what we're going to do is first change our canvas color. Right now by default it's white. We're going to change that to match the color of our header, since that's where our logo is going to be. And we're actually going to have a transparent background, but I do want to change it for now so that we can see what it would look like while we're working on it. So let's go back to our color palette, and I'm going to copy the hex code for the dark color and go back to PicMonkey. And then come over here to the left and make sure you click on the basic edits icon here to pull up these options. And then for canvas color, we're going to select the hex code, and I'm going to press delete on my keypad and paste in the hex code from our color palette. And then I'm going to click on apply, and you can see that changed it to that dark black color there. And then the next thing we need to do is come over to the left and click on the text icon there. And then we're going to click on add text, and that's going to pull up the text box. I'm going to click, hold, and drag and move this to the top left here, the upper left. And then I'm going to double click in the text box and type in construction. And then I'm going to press enter on my keypad, and then I'm going to type in equipment. And then I'm going to click, hold, and drag and move that down just a little bit. Actually, it looks like I need to click out here, and then I can click, hold, and drag to move that down and get that back on our canvas. And then I'll release. And then with the text selected, I'm going to come over here on the left, and again, make sure you're using the text icon there, the text tools. I'm going to look for a font, and you can browse all these different fonts here. I found a font here towards the top called Francois 1, so I'm going to click on that, and I do not know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, by the way. And then I'm going to select just the word construction, and I'm going to come over here to the right, and I've got several different text options. For the color, I'm going to select the hex code that's already there, and I'm going to change it to white, which again is 6F, so I'm going to type in F 6 times. And then I'm going to press enter on my keypad, and that's going to change that word to the white color. And then I'm going to select the word equipment, and I'm going to come over and actually go to my color palette and copy the hex code for the yellow and go back to PicMonkey. And with the equipment selected, I'm going to change the color by selecting the 6 zeros and deleting those and pasting in the hex code for yellow and pressing enter. And then I'm going to bump up the size of the word equipment so that it stretches as long as the word construction. And I just did a little experimenting and found that 39 was a good size, so I'm going to type in 39 and press enter. And you can see that our font size has changed. And then I'm going to click out here to get out of that. And then it looks like I need to move the logo down just a little bit, so I'll click, hold, and drag. And I definitely want it all the way on the canvas, and I'll get it as close to the upper left as I can. And then that looks pretty good. I'll release there. And then the next thing I need to do is remove the canvas color, so we'll go back to the left here and click on the basic edits icon. And then we'll click on canvas color. And now I'm going to click on transparent. I'm going to check the box here, and I'm going to click on apply. And of course it's very difficult to read because we have this transparent background is represented by the checkered background you see here, and so a white text and yellow text won't be easy to read on that. And the next thing we're going to do, the last thing, is we're going to crop our logo. So I'm going to click on the crop tool, and again that's under the basic edits icon settings. And make sure that scale photo is not selected. You don't want that. And then we'll come over here and we'll click, hold, and drag the crop box to the upper left and release. And then I'll come down and click, hold, and drag this corner to position it. And I'll get it as close as I can. And you can also crop this before you make your background transparent to make it easier to see if you wish to do that. But this will work just fine. And then I'll release there. That looks pretty good. And then I'll come over and click on Apply. And then the last thing I need to do is save my logo. So I'm going to come up here to the top and click on Save. And because we do have a transparent background, we have to save this file as a PNG type. So make sure PNG is selected. And I'll call this Construction Equipment Logo. And we're going to click Save to my computer. And I'm going to save this on my desktop in my Images folder. Alright, and just to point out, the reason we are using a transparent background is because if you decided you wanted to change the header background where your logo is going to be, and you decided to change the header background on your site, if you didn't have a transparent background on your logo, you would have to recreate it. So this is just a really good practice. Now, to add our logo to our site, let's go back to the back end. And you do want to be under these options. I'm going to exit out just to remind you. You do need to go to Appearance and click on Customize to bring up those customization options. And then of course we'll click on the arrow to drop down the logo option here next to site title, tagline, and logo, and then we'll click on Add Logo. And we are going to upload this file from our hard drive, so I'll click on that and click on Select Files, and we'll find the file on our hard drive. I've got it right here in my Images folder, and I'm going to click on Open. And then I'm going to click on Set as Logo. And then we need to save and publish, and this isn't showing up right away, so we need to save and publish, and then we'll be able to see it on our front end. And then click on the tab to open the front end, and I'll refresh the page. And now we have our logo instead of just the site title and tagline. And the last thing I do want to mention about using a logo with the storefront theme is if you have a logo that's much larger than what you see on my screen, especially if it's wider, then you might notice that when you upload it, your logo appears much smaller. And this is just something the storefront theme does. It only allows the logo to be a certain width. So just be aware of that. Alright, real quick, one thing I forgot to do when we set up our color scheme was change the color of our buttons. So we're going to go back and go ahead and do that. So go back to the back end. And of course you're going to go to Appearance and click on Customize. And we are going to be changing the button color, so I'm going to click on the arrow here. And I'm going to go and open up my shop page so we can see what our shop page would look like. And scroll down. These are the buttons that correspond to the button color and text color here at the top. So I'm going to change the background color by clicking on Select Color, and then I'm going to go to my color palette and copy the hex code for the dark shade and paste that in there. And then I'm going to scroll down, and I'm going to click on Select Color next to text color and change that to the yellow from my color palette by copying and pasting the hex code. Alright, that looks pretty good. So the background color and text color, this is referring to the button or buttons that will show up on your product listing pages, pages that show multiple products on that page. And then the alternate button background color and text color, this refers to the button on the individual product pages. So if I click on the drill to open up that product, this is the button that these colors correspond to. So I'm going to change the background color to the green from my color palette by copying the green hex code and pasting that in. And then the text color, I'm going to leave it to white, and I'm just going to click, there we go, that changed now. You can see what that would look like. So that looks good, so I'm going to save and publish. And now I'm going to go back to the front end of my site and go to the shop page. And you can see that we now have our black and yellow buttons, and then if I open up the drill product on our individual product page, we now have the green and white text for the buttons. Alright, now that we have the Jetpack plugin set up, we can take care of an issue that's really been bothering me, and that is the border that shows up anytime I click on any link on my site. and you can see it's showing up that green border around my logo. If I click on any menu item, you get that green border there. And even when I click on these individual images here, we get this green outline. And the reason it is now showing up as green instead of the original purple is because when we set up our color scheme, we changed the color of our link under the typography settings, and that's the color that corresponds to this wacky border that we're getting that we're going to remove. So to remove that, let's go back to the back end, and I can exit out of these since these changes have been saved. You do have to have the Jetpack plugin installed and set up correctly, like we just did before we added our custom logo. And then go ahead and open up Jetpack on the left here and scroll down and click on See the other 25 Jetpack features. And then we'll scroll down. All of these things are included with the Jetpack plugin, and a lot of these features are activated by default. And we're not going to go over many of these, but we are going to use this custom CSS feature. So hover over it and make sure that it does say that it is activated, and if it is active, then you will have what I have here, the deactivate button. But if it says activate, go ahead and click on that to activate the custom CSS feature. And then we can go to Appearance, and now we have this Edit CSS option. We're going to click on that, and then we're going to click here in the editor and press Enter to be taken to a space beneath the text that's already there. And I'm just going to add a really simple line of code, CSS code. That's going to be A:"focus" and then space, and then I'm going to press Shift on my keypad and have an opening bracket, which is next to the letter P on my keyboard, and then I'm going to type in outline, space, none, semicolon, and then a closing bracket by pressing Shift on my keypad, and the closing bracket is the 2 spaces away from the P key on my keypad. And that's all you need to do. And I will copy and paste this code into the video description on YouTube beneath the video so that you can just copy and paste this code in if you wish to do that. And then all you need to do is click on Save Style Sheet. Okay, later in the video I realized that we need to amend this CSS code just a little bit, and all you need to do is after the word none, include a space and type in exclamation point and then type in the word important and then put the semicolon and the closing bracket in. And again, I'll include this code in the video description below the video on YouTube. Just click on the Show More text and that'll bring up the video description, and you can just copy and paste this CSS code directly into the CSS style sheet here. And that's going to rearrange the text there. Don't worry about that, that's just fine. And now we're going to go to our front end and refresh the page. And now when I click on anything, you notice that we no longer have that border showing up. And my menu items, we no longer have the border. And when I click on individual products, we no longer have the green lines that were showing up, or the purple lines that were showing up earlier. Alright, the next thing we're going to do is set up payment processing, and before we do that, let's go ahead and add the drill product to our cart and go through part of the checkout process to show you what it looks like by default. Alright, now that we have the drill added to our cart, we can go to checkout here, click on that, and then I'll scroll down. And I want to point out that by default we have this direct bank transfer, check payment, and PayPal payment options. We're just going to be using PayPal because it's the quickest and easiest thing to set up, and you will be needing a PayPal account, and if you don't have one, I'll close out of the PicMonkey tab we no longer need and open a new tab. All you need to do is go to paypal.com, and then on the top left click on Personal and then click on Pay on Websites. And then all you need to do is click on Sign Up for Free and follow the steps, and you can set up a personal account for processing your payments. So to set up our WooCommerce settings, let's go back to the back end and hover over WooCommerce and click on Settings. And then you need to click on Checkout at the top here. And I do want to point out that next to Checkout, I do have Guest Checkout enabled, and I prefer to do this because your guests don't have to have an account on your website to purchase when you have this checked, and that just makes it easier and more convenient for your customers. And then let's scroll down, and I want to point out that we have direct bank transfer enabled, as you see here, and then check payment is enabled, and then PayPal is enabled. We're going to disable direct bank transfer and check payment, so the gateway ID, the BACS, and check. We need those. We're going to scroll up to the top, and first we're going to click on BACS to disable bank transfer. And all we need to do is click this box to disable bank transfer, and then we'll scroll down and we need to click on Save Changes. And then we need to click on Check to disable the check payment option. And then click the box to disable that and click on Save Changes. And now let's click on Checkout Options again and scroll down, and I do want to point out that now we just have PayPal activated, and even though it's activated, we still need to add our PayPal email address to link our PayPal account to our online store. So let's scroll up, and we're going to click on PayPal. And of course, you do want to make sure that PayPal is enabled here, and then all you need to do is type in your PayPal email address, and this is the email address associated with your PayPal account. Type that in, and then scroll down and just click on Save Changes. Alright, and now let's go back to the front end of our site, and I'm going to scroll up, and I'm going to go back, I'm going to click on my cart to be taken to my cart page, and I'm going to remove the drill from our cart. And then I'm going to go back to my shop page and re-add the drill now that we've got our PayPal settings set up. Open up the product page and click on Add to Cart here. Now when I click on Checkout, I can scroll down and you see we only have the PayPal option, and I'm just going to real quickly fill in the information here so that you can see what it would look like when we clicked on Proceed to PayPal. Okay, and then I'll scroll down, and I don't need to click on Ship to a different address, so I'll click on Proceed to PayPal. And this is what it would look like for your customers. This is the screen they would see, and they would be able to use their PayPal account, or if they don't have a PayPal account, they could continue here, and they would be able to pay with a credit or a debit card. Alright, the next thing we're going to do is set up our tax settings, and to do that, let's go back to the back end. And we're of course going to go to WooCommerce and click on Settings, and then we need to come up and click on Tax here at the top. Now with some online businesses, you only have to charge tax for people that live in the state that you operate out of. So in our case, we have our online store set up in Colorado, and we did that under the general settings here. So I'm going to set my store up to only charge sales tax to customers who have a Colorado shipping address. So to do that, first we need to enable taxes by checking the box here. And then we did enter our prices earlier when we created our products without tax, so we'll keep that option selected there. And then we do want to calculate tax based on the customer's shipping address. And you can also click here and you have the option to calculate tax based on the customer's billing address or the shop base address, which in our case, of course, is Colorado, but we'll leave it to customer shipping address. And then for shipping tax class, I don't want to charge tax on top of the shipping costs, so I'm going to click here and set that to the 0 rate. Then I'm going to scroll down and we'll leave all these other options set to the default settings, and we'll click on Save Changes. And then to apply the tax rate to Colorado residents, we need to adjust the standard rate here. And the reason we're adjusting the standard rate and not the reduced rate or the 0 rate is because the standard rate is the rate that's applied to all of our products by default. And I do want to show you that real quick so you can make that connection. Let's go to Products and click on Products. And I'll just click on Tape Measure to open up that in the product page editor. And then scroll down, and under the general product data settings, you see that the tax status is taxable and the tax class is set to standard by default. And you can see those other two options here, but we didn't change any of these settings when we created our products. So all of our products take on the standard class by the standard tax class by default. So let's go back to WooCommerce and click on Settings. And we're going to go back to the Tax tab, so click on that. And now we're going to click on the standard rates here. And we're going to click on Insert Row. And then we need to put in the 2-digit country code. So for the United States, that's just US. And you can click here where it says See Here to see a list of all the two-digit country codes. And then since we want our tax to only apply to Colorado residents within the United States, I'm going to type in CO for Colorado. And then for the tax rate, underneath rate here, I'm going to type in 7.5, and this is expressed as a percentage, so this is 7.5% of the tax will be charged. And I'm going to uncheck shipping because I don't want to apply the tax rate here, the 7.5%, to our shipping charges, only the products. And then I'm going to click on Save Changes. And now I'm going to view the front end of my site by coming up here, hovering over my site title, right-clicking, and clicking on Open Link in New Tab. And I can exit out of these PayPal tabs we no longer need. And we also don't need our color palette, so I'll exit out of that. So on the front end of our site, I'm going to click on the Checkout menu item to be taken to the Checkout page. And remember, we do have the drill product added to our cart here, and also earlier I put in the billing information with a Colorado address, and because we have a Colorado address, notice that the tax is being calculated for the $125 drill. $9.38 is 7.5% of $125, and if I change the state here to any other state, I'll just change it to Alabama, it'll recalculate and it won't apply tax. And I'll just pick another random state, California for example. It will only apply tax to Colorado because that's what we set up in our tax settings. And also let's scroll down. If you did need to ship to a different address, if the customer did need to ship to a different address, they would check this box and they would refill out this information. And because we have our tax set up to calculate shipping based on the customer's shipping address, if this information was not a Colorado address and the billing information was, then it would recalibrate the tax options and not apply tax to it. But as soon as we checked this box to ship to a different address, the tax rate reapplied, and that's because if we scroll down, the shipping address that was in there by default is a Colorado address. So if we change that to Arkansas and then scrolled up, you can see that the tax is no longer applied. And the last thing I want to discuss about tax options, if you did want to apply a tax rate to everybody that purchased anything from your online store, no matter where they lived or where their shipping address was, then you could go back to the WooCommerce settings. You could add the standard tax rate for wherever your base location is, and in our case our base location is Colorado. And then you could go back and click on WooCommerce settings, and then you would click on this tax tab and make sure you're on the tax options page. This is the original page we were on. And you would calculate tax based on the shop base address because the shop is set up under general settings in Colorado. So that would apply the Colorado 7.5% tax rate to everyone. Alright, the next thing we're going to do is set up our shipping options. So to access those, go to WooCommerce, click on Settings, and then click on Shipping at the top here. And then you definitely want to make sure that shipping is enabled by making sure this box is checked. It should be by default. And then I'm going to disable the shipping calculator by checking the box here. We're going to be using flat rate shipping options and we won't need the calculator for that. For the shipping display mode, I'm going to leave that set to the default setting, and then for shipping destination, by default it's set to the billing address, and I like to keep it this way because most people's shipping address is the same as their billing address, and of course if they needed to change the shipping address they would be able to do that. There's an option for that when they check out. And then scroll down, and for restrict shipping locations, I like to leave this on ship to all countries you sell to, and we set up our shop under general settings earlier in the video to only sell to the United States. So in this case, this is only going to allow shipping for the United States. And then by default, the only enabled shipping option is this free shipping option. And we're going to leave that enabled because we're going to set up a free shipping option for people that have a minimum order of $300, and we'll do that in just a moment. And let's go ahead and save the changes that we did make by clicking on Save Changes. And then to set up our free shipping option, make sure you're on this shipping tab and then click on free shipping here. And we do want to enable free shipping, so we'll leave that checked. I'm going to give this a different title to make it more specific and say free ground shipping so that people don't think that it's going to be an overnight delivery. And then all allowed countries, I'll leave that there. And then here, free shipping requires, I'm going to click on that. And I'm going to select a minimum order amount. And then I'll define that below here. And that's going to be $300. So I'll type that in. And then I'm going to click on Save Changes. And I do want to point out that you could say free shipping requires and click here. You have several different other options. You could set it to be a valid free shipping coupon or a combination of a free shipping coupon, and a minimum order quantity. If you did elect to do that, we're not going to go over coupons in this video, but you would go to WooCommerce and click on coupons here, and that way you could set up your coupons and manage your coupons. And also you would need to go to checkout. Let's click on the checkout tab. And if you wanted to use coupons, you would need to make sure that coupons were enabled, and it is by default. And since we're not going to be using coupons, I'm going to go ahead and uncheck this, and then I'll scroll down and save that change. Alright, the next thing we're going to do is set up our flat rate shipping options. So to access those, of course, go to WooCommerce settings, and then we're going to click on the shipping tab again. And then scroll down and recall that the only enabled shipping method was the free shipping method, and you can see that by the check mark there. We're going to enable flat rate shipping. So let's scroll up to the top and click on the flat rate option. And then we need to check the box to enable this shipping method, and I'm going to change the title to ground shipping. And then for the cost per order, I'm going to make this $5. Of course, you can make this whatever you want, but since the ground shipping option is going to be my most basic option, I'm going to charge $5 for that. And then since I don't want to charge sales tax for shipping, I'm going to change the tax status by clicking here and selecting none. And then I'm going to scroll down, and since I do want to have a 2-day shipping option and an overnight shipping option, I'm going to set that up under add-on rates. And you can see here that we need to have the option name separated by the pipe symbol, and then we need the additional cost for that option separated by the pipe symbol, and then we need to specify whether this additional cost applies per order, per class, or per item. And to set that up, I'm going to make this first one, which is going to be my 2-day shipping option. So I'm going to type in 2-day shipping space, and then I'm going to hold shift on my keypad and press the pipe symbol, which again is to the upper right of my keyboard underneath the delete key. And then I'm going to press space again, and I'm going to make this an additional $5, so I'm going to type 5.00, and this is going to be a total of $10 because our base cost is $5 for ground shipping, so this is going to be in addition to that cost. And then I'm going to type in space again with the pipe symbol, and I'm going to apply this per order, and I'm not going to apply it per item because theoretically all of our products, if a customer orders a product, all of their products would be shipped together, so we can charge just one shipping charge for that. And then I'm going to press enter on my keypad, and I'm going to set up my overnight option by typing in overnight shipping and then space, pipe symbol, and then I'm going to charge $10 extra by typing in 10.00, and this is going to be a total of $15 for the overnight shipping option. And then I'm going to press space and then the pipe symbol, and also charge this additional shipping cost per order. And then I'm going to scroll down and click on Save Changes. Alright, now let's go to the front end and go through several different checkout procedures to see the different shipping options that we just set up. So I'll click on my tab here, then I'm going to scroll up and I'm going to go back and click on my cart page, and I'll just remove the drill product that we added earlier by clicking the X there. And then I'm going to click on the shop tab, and I'll scroll down and I'll just click on the ratchet set, and I'll click on add to cart. And now when we go to the checkout page, you can click on checkout there. We have a $45 ratchet set in our cart, and we now have our 3 different flat rate shipping options showing up. We have the ground rate, which you can see is $5, and then we have this 2-day shipping option, which of course is an additional $5 at $10 total, and then we have this overnight option, which is a total of $15. And of course we do have tax specified because again the address is Colorado. But now I want to show you, if we go back and let's just click on our cart tab, and I'm going to add quite a few of the ratchet sets. We'll make the quantity 7, and then I'll click on update cart. And notice that the total cart amount is $315. So now when we click on the checkout tab and scroll down, we now have this free ground shipping option because we specified a minimum order quantity of $300 for the free shipping option. So that's how that works there. Alright, now let's say that you have a product that requires additional shipping costs and you want to pass those costs on to the customer. What you can do is create a shipping class that automatically adds an additional shipping cost each time one of those items is ordered. So in our case, we'll say that we have to pay an additional $4 every time a customer purchases a drill, and we'll just say this is because of the size and the weight of the drill. So we need to pass that $4 extra charge onto the customer. And the way we can do that, let's go back to the back end. And we'll create the shipping class by going to Products and click on Shipping Classes. And then we need to give it a name, so we'll say Drill Shipping Class. And don't worry about putting a slug in or a description. And then just scroll down and click on Add New Shipping Class. And now we have that class created. Now let's go back and hover over WooCommerce and click on Settings. And click on Shipping at the top here. And then we're going to click on Flat Rate to open up our flat rate shipping options that we set up earlier. And then scroll down, and under Additional Costs, where it says Costs Added, we're going to click on Per Order and change that to Per Item, charge shipping for each item individually. And then we're going to click on Add Cost. And right here you will have an option with all of your available shipping classes that you've created, and since we only have one, the drill shipping class, then that's the only one showing up there, so we'll just select that. And then for the cost, we're going to say that for each individual drill product added to our cart, we need to charge an additional $4, so I'm going to type in 4.00, and this is going to be on top of whatever other shipping option they choose. And because we selected per item up here, this is going to charge every time a drill is added to our cart. So whether we have 1, 2, or 3, for each item, it's going to get an additional $4 charge. So now let's scroll down and we'll click on Save Changes. And then the last thing we need to do is apply the drill shipping class to our actual drill product. So to do that, we'll go to Products and click on Products. And then we'll click on the drill to open up the drill in the product page editor. And then scroll down, and under Product Data, make sure you click on these so these options are appearing, and then click on Shipping, and then next to Shipping Class, where it says No Shipping Class, we're going to click on that and choose the Drill Shipping Class, and then we're going to click on Update to update the product. And now when we view the front end of our site, I'm going to scroll up and go back to our cart, and I'll just remove the ratchet sets that we have by clicking the X, and then I'll go back to my shop page and I'll click on the drill to open up the drill product page, and I'll click on Add to Cart. So we're going to add one drill to the cart, and then I can click on View Cart, or actually I can click on Checkout here and scroll down. And now notice that because we have one drill added and we specified that we want to charge an additional $4 in shipping for each of our shipping options, you see that. You see we have, instead of $5 for ground, it's now $9. And then we have an additional $4 on top of the $10 2-day shipping charge, and an additional $4 on top of the $15 overnight shipping charge. Now I'm going to scroll up and go back to my cart and add another drill by clicking the up arrow there, and then click on Update Cart. And now when we view our checkout page and scroll down, because we have two drills, we have an additional $8 on top of our shipping costs. Now, one thing I want to point out, if we were to add one more drill to our cart, that would put our order total well over $300, and since we do have a free shipping option set up with a minimum order quantity of $300, then that free shipping option would still show up there. So just be aware of that. Alright, the next thing I want to do is show you how to utilize cross-selling functionality on your online store to maximize your revenue. And basically what cross-selling is, let's say you have two products that are complementary. So in other words, if a customer is purchasing one of those products, they may very well be interested in another one of your products. And to do that, let's go back and view our shop page. And I have a drill, and I also have a drill bit set. So in our case, if a customer is purchasing a drill, they may very well be interested in purchasing a drill bit set as well. So the drill bit set would be a complementary product for the drill. So to set that up in the back end, let's go back, and you will go to Products and click on Products, and we'll just do that to show you real quick. And then of course you'll click on the drill again, so we're basically going to be taken back to the same page. So now that you're on the drill product page editor, we'll scroll down and under product data, click on product data to maximize these options here, and we'll click on linked products, and then right here next to cross sell we're going to type in just drill, and this will search through all the products that you have in your store, and it'll pull up the ones that fit that description, and we'll select the drill bit set there. And then all we need to do is click on update, and that's going to update the drill product. And then if we view the front end of our site again, and remember that I already have several drills added to my cart. Okay, now when I view my cart, because we set up the drill bit set as a complementary product for the drill, and because we have the drill added to our cart, we now have this "you may be interested in" showing up here, and it gives us the option to add the drill bit set to our cart. So I think that's just a great way to maximize your revenue and bring other products to your customers' attention. Alright, now let's discuss widgets and widget areas. And basically widgets are tools that you can use to increase the usability and functionality of your site. And oftentimes different plugins will come with different widgets. As you'll see with the WooCommerce plugin, we'll have lots of WooCommerce widgets. And then also a standard WordPress installation comes with several widgets by default. And a widget area is simply a designated area on your site where you can add widgets. And different WordPress themes will come with different widget areas. So let's go back to our back end, and to see your available widget areas, come down to Appearance and click on Widgets. And here on the right we have all of our available widget areas. We have a sidebar widget area, a header widget area, and then we have 4 footer widget areas. And then on the left we have all of our available widgets, and you can scroll down. And a lot of these ones at the top are widgets that come with WordPress. And then we also have some WooCommerce widgets that come with the WooCommerce plugin. Now, if we look here on the right in our sidebar widget area, if you click on this arrow to open it up, you see that we have 6 widgets in place by default. And if we view the front end of our site, you can see that on the right we have these 6 widgets in place: the search widget, the recent posts, and all these others. And the sidebar widget area with the storefront theme will show up on every page but our home page. And to show you that, I'll just open up another page, the shop page. These same 6 widgets are on display here. Now if we go back to our back end and we're under Appearance Widgets, to remove widgets from our widget area, all you have to do is click, hold, and drag them over to the available widgets area and release. And we'll just do that with all 6 of these since we don't need those. Click, hold, drag, and release. Alright, and now if we view the front end of our site and refresh the page, you notice that we no longer have those widgets showing up because they're no longer in place in our back end. Now let's go back and add some widgets to our widget areas by going back to the back end, and of course go to Appearance and click on Widgets, and we'll find the widget we want to add to our sidebar. I'm going to use the WooCommerce cart widget, so I'll find that and then I'll click on it, and then I need to click on where I want it to be assigned, and I do want to leave this on the sidebar, so I'll click on Add Widget, and that's going to add the widget to my sidebar area. And I'm not going to use my header widget area, but you can certainly feel free to experiment with that. We are going to use our footer widget areas, so I'm going to scroll down, and I'm also going to add a WooCommerce cart widget to my footer area 1. So I'll click on that again, and this time I'll click on footer 1, and then I'll click on Add Widget. And you can see that assigns the widget to the footer widget area. And then for footer widget area 2, I'm going to find a WooCommerce product categories widget, and that's going to be right here. I'm going to click on that and assign that to footer 2 by clicking on that and click on Add to Widget. And we'll leave all these settings set to the default. And then for footer widget area 3, I'm going to assign a WooCommerce products widget by finding the WooCommerce products widget here, and I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to click on footer 3 and click on Add Widget. And this time I am going to adjust some of these settings. I'm going to make it display just my featured products. So where it says show, I'm going to click on that. And you also have the option to use on sale products, but I'm going to use featured products. So it's going to show the 2 products that I've elected to be featured. And then since I did make a change to the default settings, I do need to click on save here. And then for footer 4, I'm going to find a WooCommerce product search widget. And that's going to be right here. I'll click on that, and then I'll click on footer 4 and click on Add Widget. And now if we view the front end of our site, And we're on the shop page. We'll refresh this page. You can see that we now have our cart widget showing up here on our sidebar. And of course, it's showing the two drills that we have added to our cart. And if we scroll down, you can see that in all of our footer widget areas, we have our cart widget here. We have our product category widget and footer widget area 2. Then we have our product widget here with our featured products. And we have our search widget. And one thing I do want you to be aware of, if we scroll up to the top here and click on our cart page, the sidebar widget area is still here, but the cart widget won't show up, and this is just because it would be a redundancy to have the cart widget on your cart page. And then also on your checkout page, if we click on that, the cart widget also won't show up because at this point the customer is ready to check out and they would already know what's in their cart. And it would also list the customer's cart items in the Your Order section. Alright, the last thing I want to do is discuss what happens when a customer actually places an order. And first of all, if you are using PayPal to process your payments, and of course the customer would make the purchase through PayPal, you would get an email from PayPal letting you know that the customer had placed an order. And also you can go back to your back end and you can go hover over WooCommerce here on the left and you can click on Orders. And a list of all your orders will show up here. And as soon as we added PayPal as our payment processing system for this e-commerce site, I went through the process and clicked on Proceed to Checkout, and you can see that order is showing up here. And if I click on this icon where it says View when I hover over it, that's going to take me to a page with additional order information, and it'll have the date, the customer's billing and shipping details, and it'll also have the items that the customer purchased as well as the shipping method. And also notice that this order is listed as an unpaid order canceled, and that's just saying because the time limit was reached. And this is because, of course, when we clicked on Proceed to Checkout earlier in the video, we didn't actually go through and pay with PayPal. So I just wanted to point that out there. But this is a great way to keep up with all your customer orders, and I just wanted to show you that. Alright, that wraps it up. Congratulations for finishing the entire tutorial, and as always, please don't forget to like the video on YouTube, subscribe to my channel, comment on the video, and add the video as a favorite, and also share the video on YouTube. These things really help me out, and I really appreciate that. And also, if you do need hosting, go to HostGator.com, and you can either use the WP Sculptor 1 cent coupon code or the WP Sculptor 25 coupon code. And not only will you get a discount, that really helps me out, so I really appreciate that. And I'll see you next time.